What's up, everybody? Welcome to another episode of the Excellent Podcast. I'm your cinematic host, STEFON WHITAKER, the head honcho of SW Films. Today, we have a very special guest who was a very special guest before on this podcast, but that episode had a whole bunch of audio issues. So we're running it back for interview 2, which is basically interview 1 again. This is my really, really good friend who I went to film school with at Full Sail University. Someone who I have not seen or worked with in such a long time, probably since graduation. And I'm so happy to be able to have a conversation with him again, just about his journey through filmmaking and his journey through everything that he's been going through in the past, I want to say almost 6 years of us graduating from college, from film school. My brother, Andrew Domville, is here on the podcast today. This dude is an excellent person, an excellent and wonderful creative director, black man, human being. And, you know, he's looking like Morpheus from Matrix today, but we're very happy to have him here on the podcast to talk about everything he's been up to. Andrew, how are you doing?
Yo, I'm doing pretty good, man. It's great to be on the podcast again. You know, I'm looking forward to this episode, you know, everything we're going to be discussing in this episode. Life is great right now. You know, we're working on some things, and I'm excited to hear some of the stuff that you've got going on as well. And if we can provide some valuable information for some of the listeners here, I mean, I'm all about it.
Absolutely, man. Absolutely. I'm really glad that we get a chance to conversate again, because I feel like since the last time we talked, there's a lot of different things that has happened. I'm sure in your life and my life and just in the world in general of the filmmaking space, we have a lot of interesting stuff to talk about. But before we get into all of that, let my audience who's listening and watching right now know who Andrew Domville is, who Andrew Domville is, what do you do, and just, you know, just speak to your excellence, speak to all the amazing stuff that you do.
Okay. Well, my name is Andrew Domville. I am a filmmaker based out of LA and Miami. Currently, right now, I'm juggling a few projects. Recently, just shot a film, my longest film that I've done about a year ago. It's in post-production right now. Currently working with a few NFL athletes and a few musicians when it comes to product launches and specializing in sort of the social media aspect of marketing. And right now, man, I'm hanging in there. There's a lot of interesting things that are going on in the industry, especially when it comes to, well, I'm sure we'll talk about it later, but just a lot of interesting things that are going on right now. So that's me in a nutshell. Looking forward to this podcast.
Absolutely, man. That's great. You've done a lot of amazing stuff in the past 6 years. And I think we got to go back to our beginning when we met, which is Full Sail University. I've spoken about Full Sail on this podcast a lot of different times. And when we spoke about Full Sail the first time, it was great because me and Andrew actually hadn't spoke in, I want to say, probably 6 years, which is just insane to think about. Spoke like in person or like through audibly. It's been a long, long time. So that conversation was super, super special. And I'll see what I can salvage as well from that interview, maybe to throw in here. But for now, I want to talk about just your start when it came to getting into the film industry, because Full Sail is a very interesting start for a lot of folks. And I'm interested to just kind of hear how you got to get into the film industry. Like, what made you want to become a filmmaker? How did that decision lead you down the path of getting to Full Sail?
Okay. Well, you know, it's interesting when we look at filmmakers, you know, a lot of the filmmakers that we look up to or we aspire to be are, you know, currently working right now that's on top of their game. A lot of them were inspired by George Lucas's, you know, Star Wars, you know, the trilogy, you know, the original trilogy. And for me, it was Lord of the Rings, Peter Jackson's Lord of the Rings. You know, growing up, I was born in 1995, growing up in the late 1990s and the early 2000s. That was the big thing for me. So watching those movies on repeat and then, you know, actually watching it all the way through the credits, I begin to formalize in my mind that, hey, you know what? It actually takes people to actually make these things. You know, you can actually make a movie, and that can actually be a job, and you can actually get money from doing that. You know, so after continuously watching those kind of films, and studying them as a youth, when I got into middle school, I started taking, you know, a lot of creative writing, and that
In
kind
middle
of helped
school?
me. In middle school, yeah, middle
Really?
school,
They had creative
yes.
writing in middle school. They never had anything like that for my middle school.
Well, it wasn't a class. It was more so for me. Like in middle school,
Ah.
I started writing a novel, which I never finished. But I started writing like all these kinds of things, you know, and that just learning storytelling and on that kind of scale. You know, it was when I got into eighth grade and we had to, you know, talk about, you know, what we wanted to do when we got older. Like, what was the job that you want to do? You know, you had people who wanted to be doctors, you had people who wanted to be firefighters, or, you know, a lawyer or something like that, or a zookeeper or something like
Hmm.
that, right? But for me, when I was in eighth grade, I said, you know what, I want to be a film director, never
Hmm.
knowing what a director actually did or was. I
Right.
just saw I just saw, you know, Steven Spielberg directed, you know, Jurassic Park, and I said, okay, that seems like a pretty prominent position. Maybe that's something I might want to do because I love Jurassic Park. So, but I never had the wherewithal to actually pick up a camera and actually start shooting stuff. So
Hmm.
it was for me, I took the approach through writing, creatively through writing. And then that led me to saying, you know what, I might want to go to film school after high school. I was looking at a whole bunch of universities, saw Full Sail, you know, born and raised in Florida. It was a little bit closer to home. So I decided to go ahead and plant my start there at Full Sail.
Nice, man. Nice. So yeah, you obviously from Florida, and did you know about Full Sail before? Because a lot of people who are listening and watching, if you don't know, Full Sail is based in Winter Park, Florida, which is like a suburb of Orlando. Did you? I mean, were there any other schools that you were looking at before Full Sail?
I was looking at, I believe it was NYU. I was looking at that.
You went
I was
straight to
looking
the top.
Yeah, I was looking at a few film schools and stuff like that, but for me, it was Full Sail was a little bit more economical. It was closer to home. In case, you know, I decided to, I don't know, I was still young, like 18. In case I decided that I wanted to do something else, you know, it's a little bit closer. You know, I'm not too far away from family if I need to, you know, figure things out. So, to me, it just made more sense to go to Full Sail. Although, you know, my family is in South Florida, so I was still away, but you know, it was just more economical.
Yeah, no, it's definitely a big difference being like maybe 3 or 4 hours away compared to being 2,000 miles away. Like, obviously
Exactly. Yeah.
me, when I moved out to Florida, it was a big deal because I had never obviously lived outside of where I had grown up ever, in Indiana and Angola, Indiana. Definitely never had been anywhere else. Plus, I don't think I had any family in Florida, at least not any family that anybody knew about necessarily. So, which was interesting because at the very end of Full Sail, I did have a cousin who I'd never met until she moved to Florida, who lived there, and went to Full Sail actually. And I forget what she went for. I think she went for something in music. And it's funny, I met her one time and never seen her again and never spoke to her again. I don't remember what her fucking name is. So it's kind of just funny because of that. But anyway, yeah, no, I agree. It's good to stay close by, and it's crazy to think about all the different options that you may have had before Full Sail. Because I remember I went to a place called Goshen College. I think that was the name, not University of Goshen, but Goshen College. And I tried to go into their see what their film program, we'll call it, was, which wasn't really film. It was like, I think it was more television broadcasting type of situation. And it just wasn't exciting. It wasn't interesting to me. It wasn't, I don't know. Because I remember that was the only school, the only college. Because I also thought about going to college to play football, but then I realized kind of quickly that football probably wasn't really my passion to get into like that. Um, but I thought it was the only school I went to go visit. And it was interesting because when I went in there, I did get a chance to see a little bit of like a TV studio type of thing, but it was very minute compared to what we would see at Full Sail all the time on the studio. I remember Candyland, like there was all these different kinds of places that were so, that just makes Full Sail really kind of give you the idea of like what a film set is like. And I'm sure a lot of other schools have that, but Full Sail kind of promotes that a little bit more. I feel like, how, tell me if this is true or not, but like before you went to Full Sail, right? Before you decided to make that decision, did you eventually start to see a lot of, like marketing and branding for Full Sail, or at least after you decided to make that decision to go to Full Sail, did you just start to see a whole bunch of commercials that was just like promoting Full Sail and what it offers in music and film and gaming and all these different kinds of stuff? Did you see that? Because I saw that a lot, I feel like, afterwards and even beforehand, just a little bit.
I did. I did see a lot of marketing and advertisement for Full Sail. The only thing that makes sense to me is that, maybe went through our research of Googling the actual school, clicking on the website and stuff like that. You know how certain websites have sort of your information where they can sort of market to you. That's the only thing that kind of makes sense, because I was getting YouTube ads, I was getting other ads and stuff like that. And the internet's like this culmination of just all this immense information of just basically searching. So it tailors everything to your search. So that's the only thing that kind of makes sense to me, because I was seeing a lot of stuff from Full. So even after graduating, I still see stuff, and I don't even look at the school anymore. So yeah.
Why is that? Why don't you look at the school anymore?
Well, we graduated. We graduated. There's no reason for me to look at it anymore.
Well, I mean, yes and yes, but it's interesting. Actually, two things that happened since our last attempt at a conversation. I had two people reach out to me, and I don't remember their names off top. Well, one of them actually, no, I do remember, because he's the most recent person. There's a kid named Dustin. I don't remember what his last name. Some kid named Dustin, and then the other kid I forget. But they're both at Full Sail right now, and they're in their first month. You know how Full Sail goes by the months. They're at their first month at Full Sail, and they reached out to me asking, like, hey, I know you went to Full Sail, you're a Full Sail alumni, and I was just asking how do I do certain things in the industry after I graduate? Like, what was life like for you post graduation? All that. They asked a bunch of different questions, to kind of figure out for themselves. And honestly, my first reaction to that was, okay, how the hell did they find my name first and foremost? How do they know I went to Full Sail? That was my first thing. Because usually when people message me out of context, when they message me out of context, I'm instantly like, sometimes I get a little weary about that. I mean, I know that I'm a very like social person in terms of just like promoting myself and marketing and branding for SW Films and whatnot. So I was just, obviously I was just kind of like, okay, what are these kids talking about? But they go to Full Sail. So I instantly was like, okay, they go to Full Sail. They have questions. I didn't know if like a teacher there specifically gave my name and said, hey, you should go check out STEFON. That was my thing. I'm like, what teacher said that? Because I didn't talk to I didn't have a close relationship with any teachers at Full Sail at all. So I was just very confused, but also interested. And then I realized, how Full Sail always, for all the major movies that come out, they always, and I'll probably put this picture up in the video version of the podcast, but there was or you can check it out on my Facebook, Instagram, whatever. But how they post up the alumni credits that have worked in the big movies. My name was in the credits, not actually in the credits of Shang-Chi, Legend of 10 Rings, but they put it up as, hey, STEFON WHITAKER graduated in 2016, worked on Shang-Chi, Legend of 10 Rings. And that was just, for me, that was always one of those things I would love to see from Full Sail, just as far as like, adding my name in those little alumni credits. Like that to me felt really special, because never once have I been acknowledged by Full Sail or any school that I've gone to for that matter. I mean, at least not publicly, right? Maybe in private. In private, I don't know about that, but publicly for sure that was the first time. And yes, I was in a list of other folks, but it was interesting because I was the only person in that Full Sail alumni list that was in the film degree who worked on the movie, and the only person who I was the youngest class to graduate at 2016. So that was kind of a very interesting situation and very cool. And I'm just super excited to see, obviously we're filming this podcast before Venom 2 and Matrix Resurrections comes out, but I would hope and expect to see my name in there in those alumni credits as well. But that felt special, and that's how those kids found me. And it was just interesting hearing these kids, basically ask questions about, life after Full Sail and all this kind of stuff. And, obviously we both have similar and different opinions about Full Sail, which was what we're going to get into. But, I just kind of told them the honest truth. I was like, hey, Full Sail is a great school if you know how to use your resources and right, basically like if you have good rapport with your teachers and, your classmates and stuff, build that up, and I told them, I think the number one important thing I told them is make sure that you do work outside of school too. Don't just try to only do work in school, and don't think that your student film is going to be the end all be all to getting the gold, like, no, absolutely not. No one's going to give a fuck about that student film. If we're being completely honest, like no one's going to care. They're going to care about the outside work that you do. And, that's the most important thing, because you'll learn probably more outside of school, or just as much outside of school as you do in school when you're making projects and stuff. So it just felt really cool that two kids reached out to me, two random kids who are in Full Sail. That felt really great. And, just reminds me of my quote unquote leadership responsibilities that sometimes get placed upon me. But that was cool. So I hope, shout out to those two kids, Dustin. And I am gonna find the other kid's name because I don't want to not. Oh, Gabriel, Dustin, and Gabriel. Shout out to those two kids if you happen to be listening. Me and Andrew appreciate you, even though Andrew doesn't know you, and I don't know you either. But we appreciate you. Anyway, Full Sail. Let's talk about it, man, because Full Sail is something to behold. What was your time like at Full Sail? What was that first month like for you at Full Sail? Like, were you expecting something completely different when you first like sat down in the classroom? Like, what was your experience like at film school?
Well, honestly, when I started film school, I believe we started film school August of 2014.
Yep.
So when we started, I don't know what our first class was. I think it was digital literacy. I could be wrong about that. I think that was our first
I think
class.
It was, yeah.
Yeah. So, I mean, for me, my expectations starting film school was under the impression that, okay, we're just going to get right into it. We're going to start, learning about production. I'll be able to pick up a camera and, we just take off and continue to keep going. It wasn't that way. We sort of had these classes that we had before we got to the production classes, which were, I think a few months before we actually picked up a camera and everything like that. So, Full Sail is not. It's a good school. I had a good time. I think the most valuable thing you can do when you go to Full Sail is build your network. I think your network is everything. Of course, the work that you do, you want to build a portfolio. The work you do outside of school, very important, because that builds experience. But I think also, too, one thing that I neglected, I can only speak for myself, one thing that I neglected when I was in film school was that I never really grew my network that big, besides, the people that we hung out with, Deshaun, Trevor,
yeah,
Ty, and,
shout out to all the guys. Yeah.
All those guys, even Ethan and Nathan, all those, we talked and we hung out and did stuff, so that was really our group. I never really connected with all these other people. And that is sort of something that I saw, graduating Full Sail that I could have improved on, because it is what you said earlier, when you were talking about those two people that reached out to you. It's what you make of it. You go there, you're only going to get what you put in. So if you put in a lot, you're going to get a lot. If you put in, a little, you're not going to get that much. You got to Full Sail is an opportunity at the end of the day. So with that opportunity, you want to make the best out of it. So that means starting, networking, building, relationships and making projects outside of school. When we started digital literacy, I was like, okay, this is, this just isn't exactly what I thought. But, eventually after we were doing those classes, I had this lightning in a bottle idea. I said, you know what? I'm going to go ahead and make a short film. I'm tired of just sitting here and just, not doing what it is that I feel the need or the urge to do. So you know what? I got some of the classmates in the class to go ahead and make a short film called Life. It's not public, so you don't really have to worry about it, but it is on my IMDb, so I have to acknowledge it. So, but we went out and we made that film, and that experience was such an incredible, enriching experience because, for one, I made so many mistakes, and those were healthy and good mistakes to make because I was able to learn and get better at the craft. But got a whole bunch of people that were in class, went out, shot some stuff. I thought this was going to be the one to get me to Sundance. It turned out that wasn't the thing, but it was a great learning experience and one that I will always take with me. So
absolutely,
that was the earlier parts of Full Sail for me.
Yeah, Full Sail, man, Full Sail, like saying the name Full Sail, like to me, right? Full Sail has become it's a weird full circle moment in a way for me with the whole Shang-Chi situation. With as far as like, just the alumni list, it was really cool because, like I said, I never felt any acknowledgement from school. And like you said, is just maybe not a regret, but just like, that you didn't put in as much time to network with certain folks, to build that network up. I'm completely in the same boat. I definitely did not network well enough at all in Full Sail. Of course, I had my friends who I always was around. Deshaun, Trevor, Ty, Nick Lambertson, Jose, Dari, man, really y'all are like all the Freddie. Y'all are like the people I would name right off the bat, hands down. Shout out to all of those guys. I plan on interviewing all of them eventually. But basically, Full Sail, how it became for me was just, I think a lot of people were cool with a lot of teachers. That was like one of the ways to kind of, these teachers who you would expect have worked in the industry and have known some things. And, there's a few people like that. Like, shout out Nikki Wilson. Nikki Wilson, of course. I remember she had told us that she had worked on Jurassic World, actually. When that came out. And I remember that was really, really cool. And she was, of course, in like a secretary position. She wasn't like on set, I think, but like still, I'm like, yeah, that's dope. That's hella cool. You get to, you're hearing a lot of behind the scenes stuff financially about the film. Like, that's really cool. And she also worked on the really bad Fantastic Four. Fant Four Stick is what it was. A lot of people called it. She worked on that, and and that was just really, really cool just to be like, wow, she's worked on this. And I remember the one teacher, and I forget his name. I don't know if you remember his name, but he was a teacher he cussed a lot. He was the one teacher who just didn't give a shit about nothing. I don't remember what class he was in, but he worked on Dead Presidents, which I also thought was really cool. He was he was the first person I think I'd ever really had heard and met in person who's worked on a like older movie like that. So I thought that was kind of cool.
Was he, not to cut you off, was he the guy that when we were doing like that 10 to 15 picture lighting story? Was it like that 15 picture lighting story? Was that the guy you're talking about?
Maybe. I can't really remember, to be honest. I don't remember what class he taught. I just remember he kind of stood out. Like, here's the thing, right? Teacher wise, like there's a few teachers that stood out to me. Nikki was one of those people because I remember in Nikki's class specifically, and I forget what class that was, but Nikki did open up me specifically to just a wider range of what the film industry means and what it holds. It's more than just doing short films, feature films. there's music videos, there's commercials, there's documentaries, there's infomercials, there's PSAs, there's all these different types of mediums in this filmmaking world, which is really, really cool. And I just remember I really like that was the moment for me where I kind of thought to myself, okay, with that being said, it's almost like I'm learning something that I already knew because I loved music videos beforehand. I didn't really think to myself when I was watching music videos before film school, like I'm going to create a music video, because I just never thought that, even though back in the day I thought I wanted to be a rapper. I never even envisioned that for myself. So it was just like I was watching all these different things. I've watched different commercials and documentaries. We see commercials all the time on TV. It was just cool to like put that together. And from all that knowledge and information that she gave, that's when it kind of formed for me what I can do for SW Films slightly. So, and even though Nikki, I kind of felt like, and no shade to Nikki, but I did feel like sometimes Nikki maybe she kind of like turned her face away from me and our group a little bit. Not saying that's like a purposeful thing, but I didn't necessarily see too much like care or want maybe in some of the things that I kind of wanted to ask and try to reach out to. So I never really got that good close relationship that would have been cool. But regardless, shout out to Nikki. She's great, and she's been supportive now after seeing stuff like most people have all of a sudden have became, but that's another story. She stood out to me because of all that information. I think the digital literacy teacher that we had, he actually stood out to me too. I think his name was Andrew Geimer.
Yes,
Andrew Geimer. I actually have him. He follows me on Instagram and like maybe on Facebook too. But Andrew was really cool because he kind of did kick off like a nice energy. Like he was just a nice guy. I don't necessarily remember anything in particular, but I do remember I took a picture with him, which I thought was very funny. I took a picture with this teacher and then to never speak to this teacher ever again. But that was kind of cool. Andrew Geimer, I thought was a cool teacher. There's a teacher who I don't remember his name, but he cussed a lot. He was really funny, just not vulgar, but just very obtuse in character. Very, very just interesting guy. I forget his name. And then there was the director teacher, Kevin O'Neill, who he didn't really stick out much, but he stuck out because he was in the directing class. And that was the one class that I wanted to pay attention to the most because me, STEFON WHITAKER, am a director, writer, producer, as well as Andrew himself. That's what our main goals in this film industry are, and also what we do. So obviously I wanted to focus more on that class. And Kevin was really cool, really nice. Still a very nice guy. And other teachers, I don't know. I feel like there was some kind of like, I don't know. I think that was kind of it. I feel like those are the only teachers I can really remember offhand. I kind of remember the documentary teacher a little bit. I kind of remember him just because I remember him saying that he had a documentary business and made a lot of money sometimes. I also remember somewhat of the teacher from our HD broadcast class. I don't know if you remember that. The drama of that class. I don't know if you remember that. The drama that happened there between like me, Eugene, Nick. That was.
Oh yeah. I remember that. I remember because we were in the same class. We were in the same class.
Yeah, we were in the same class.
You remember that dancing video when we were up on the stage, right?
Yeah.
We were in the same class.
Shout out to Donna Davis. Donna is also a great filmmaker. I don't know where she's based at now, but I definitely got to get her on the podcast too. But Donna had recorded it. I remember that. And yeah, your dancing was very bad and mine was bad. And I actually hope that video.
It was good bad. It was good bad.
Nah. I hope that video never comes to light. I did see that one time on a Facebook memory.
Yeah.
I had to hurry up and scrub past it because I'm like, I don't ever want to see that again. That was bad. But yeah, there was some drama in that class, man, which is something I want to talk about too. Like Full Sail for you, right? Like tell me if this is true. Because this was kind of true for me, and it was very, I'm gonna say it was very disappointing that I kind of like it kind of came into my mind a little bit. But one thing I hated about high school, right, was high school drama. Like high school drama is one of those things where it's drama that is not important. It's not important. It's nothing that's gonna shake the timeline of your life. Maybe it might shake some timelines depending on how crazy it is. But most high school drama, the consistent high school drama does not shake anything. It doesn't shake a leg, nothing. Not important. And it was just hella interesting. It was hella interesting when it came to Full Sail, because at a certain point, Full Sail started to become high school drama in some ways, just a little bit, and it disappointed me. I want to tell the podcast this story about that situation in HD broadcast, or maybe I should wait, low key, because what interviewing Nick is the one. Nick is the person. I'm gonna wait for the pot to tell when I bring Nick on the podcast. But specifically, there's a situation in this HD broadcast. For those of you that don't know what HD broadcast is, it's basically like news broadcasting, sports broadcast. So everything that you would expect to see in that realm is what we were learning in class. That was the most boring and stupidest ass class ever at Full Sail, in my opinion. One, because I just am not interested in any sort of HD or sports broadcasting like that at all. That's nothing that I wanted to do in the film world. To me, it doesn't buy to my creative ability and creative, opportunities or whatever. So I just didn't want to do that. But basically, long story less long is it was just almost a fight that happened on that class between me. Not really between me, because I didn't really, there was nothing really much that said to me. I didn't really move much of a leg. I just told somebody to get the hell away from me. And then Nick was going off. But anyway, we'll tell that story another time. But drama, though, there was just a lot of drama that I seen, because, a lot of people wanted to one up each other in class. And it's very unfortunate that people wanted to do that, because, people kind of got this Hollywood mindset stuck in their heads right from the very beginning. And it's just kind of unfortunate that became a thing, for school, because how it goes is we graduate by the month, I believe, right? Every single month there's a graduation, I believe. Mm-hmm. Yeah, which is something. Full Sail is not your typical school, too. Full Sail it's a trade school technically. We graduated in 2 years. We went in 2014, graduated in 2016. It's not your usual school. Every graduation, every month. Not every school does that. The schools graduate by the year. We graduate every month.
We were also in the accelerated program.
Yeah,
so they had different programs. So we were able to turn those 3 to 4 years that we would actually do at a traditional school into a condensed 2 years, a little bit less than that.
Exactly. So it's just like, it was kind of crazy. It was kind of crazy to just have to run it to go through some of the stuff that we went through. But I mean, did it feel like that for you a little bit? Did you have like some unnecessary drama that kind of like made you kind of think differently on your experience at school?
Well, the thing is that life is drama. I don't like anywhere you go in life, there's always going to be
good recovery.
No, I mean, it that's what it is, though. I mean, high school, college, you get out there in real life, relationships, our career stuff, there's always some type of drama. I think
absolutely,
I think it's the same thing that we said before. Things happen and you just make the best out of that situation. For me, I mean, there are a lot of instructors that I've learned from immensely. Shout out to Nikki that we were talking about, but also Kevin O'Neill. I'm still very close with him, although I deleted Facebook. I'm still very close with Kevin. And
what?
Yeah, I deleted Facebook a long time ago, bro. I mean, you didn't know that?
No, I never knew. I mean, you were on Facebook, but even when you were on it, you were never on it. So like, same with Trevor.
But I only got Facebook because when I got director for DCI, they wanted to make a Facebook group, so that way we can share information and, everybody had their position, stuff like that. And me being the director, they say, hey man, you have to have a Facebook. I fought it. I didn't want to get Facebook. I didn't believe in it.
I didn't believe in it. Yeah, hold on, wait a minute, man. How'd you not believe in it? Because
I wasn't into social media. Like I wasn't into social media like that.
Even in high school?
Yeah, I wasn't in. I never used social media. And look, I never even really knew how to use a computer. I got the Full Sail. That first class that we were in, You remember Doug, right? Was it Doug Steele, right? You remember him? I don't know his last name. I forget his
Kind of
last name.
sounds
But you
familiar.
remember,
Oh yeah, I remember Doug. Shout
yeah,
out to Doug.
yeah.
Very nice
I
guy.
love
Nice guy.
Doug. Love
Yeah,
Doug.
yeah.
Very nice guy. He actually taught me how to use the computer. Okay.
That's
I didn't know
funny.
how to do I didn't know how to do anything. I was like helpless. And then Jonathan Federici, who's doing
Yeah.
some big stuff in
Shout out to
who's doing
Jonathan.
some
Shout out to him.
yeah, he's doing some big stuff in Colombia right now.
Oh
I'm very
yeah.
proud of him. Watching from the sidelines, cheering him on. I know he's going to do some extraordinary stuff.
Absolutely.
Honestly, a top 5 filmmaker I ever met in my life. To be honest, he's that good.
Wow.
If he just stays focused, then he'll be able to do some incredible things. But he taught me how to edit. Like I wasn't tech savvy when I got to Full Sail. I didn't know anything. I didn't even really know how to use a phone. And I'm not exaggerating.
Yeah.
I was the only thing I had to offer was this creative itch, this exploration of writing that really fascinated me, and the idea or the notion of storytelling. So getting into Full Sail, learning all this kind of stuff, having to get a Facebook that was against my wishes. I think that led to some unfortunate decisions I made in the future. But
Oh gosh.
either way, either way, I think there's drama anywhere you go. And of course, there are some
Yeah.
things when we were in Full Sail that weren't the best experiences. That's life in general. And as I continue to get older, and I look back on those experiences taught me so much and has gotten me to the place that I am today. Being that kid, that 18-year-old something that was in college, taking his shirt off for pictures and
Shirts
and
off.
and and yeah, and doing like projects and stuff, which were never my idea. It was always the group of people that I worked with. They always said, "Hey, Andrew, you know what'd be great? Take your shirt off. Let's get this shot right here." I said, "Okay, let's do it. Let's do it." Me being gullible, I go ahead and do it. And I look back on some of that stuff, and it's not the best stuff. But I will say to look back at to go back to your question that we were talking about previously. There's some experiences when we were doing DCI. I didn't have the best experience making that film. The film that I directed for them was Lonely. Um, and like I said, it taught me an immense amount about filmmaking. But then after that experience of making that film for them, I decided to, learn as much as I could in school, the theoretical part of filmmaking, but the experience, the practical, I was going to do that outside of film school, which meant doing spec commercials, doing a music video, entering into competitions, and learning, like doing the Dorito commercial, learning my craft, outside of film school, because I realized that from that one experience, it kind of left a scar. And I was like, you know what? Let me just take everything that they're teaching me in school and apply that outside. And to be
Right.
honest with you, it's helped me immensely. It's helped me grow a portfolio. I've gotten all my clients, all my work still from projects that I've done in that range of 2015 and 2016,
Hmm.
excluding the stuff that I'm doing now, which I think is just much, I think it's the qualities there, and I'm a mature filmmaker than I
Right.
was, back then. So yeah, there's drama everywhere you go. Don't get sucked into it, and focus on what you got to do. That's my advice.
Very good. Very good answer. Very good answer. I mean, yeah, you're right. That is 1000% true. There's drama everywhere you go. Nothing is perfect. No situation, no place, no person is perfect. Um, and I realize that so much more continuously as I go on throughout life and throughout my career as well. I mean, there's been drama that I've been kind of somewhat involved into out here in the Bay Area in California. And I think that just goes to the idea of high school
Wait a
drama.
minute. Wait a minute, Stefan. There was drama in the Bay Area. There was drama when you went back to Indiana. There was drama at Full Sail in high school. You sure you're not the drama? You sure you're not bringing the drama,
Oh,
my brother?
stop
I
it.
gotta question that, man, because there's drama
Oh my
everywhere you
goodness.
go.
Nah, now, absolutely not. I ain't gonna let you do all
Okay,
that.
all right.
Because the
Okay.
thing is drama
Okay.
wise, drama wise, no, I mean, because here's the thing, right?
I'm just messing with him.
No. I'm glad you bring it up though, because there's different types of levels to it. I think you know possibly, not possibly, but for sure there's different levels to it. Like me personally, at Full Sail, I never once had an issue with anybody outwardly. I never had to really check someone in person. There's people who annoy the shit out of me. Like the dudes, what the hell are they called? They call themselves the GPS boys or GSP. I don't know. You know, the three white dudes who Jonathan Waldron is actually hella cool. Shout out to Jonathan Waldron. He's a very amazing photographer, cinematographer, very dope dude. The other two, I don't know what the hell they'd be doing. I think the other one actually had like a film in Sundance, actually, which is
John Waldron was the cinematographer on Lonely.
Yeah,
film I directed for Full Sail. So yeah, he's extremely talented.
Extremely great. Do extremely talented guy.
Gonna do some great stuff.
Yeah, the other two were probably pretty good too. At least the I don't know about the dude who tried to act like he was James Dean. I don't know where he's at. But the other dude, the dude Will, even though he was annoying as shit. I'm sorry.
Will's doing some extraordinary stuff,
yeah,
bro.
No, he's doing some great. No, he's doing great things. I've seen it.
Yeah,
I think he has a movie in Sundance, doing great stuff.
Two films.
That's very great.
South by Southwest. I mean?
Yeah. Doing a very, very good. But it does not deny the fact that he was an asshole in college. So great stuff. I hope you fixed that part of yourself. But other than that, you know, specifically when it comes to drama, I never had any issues with anybody. Now, after college, when I went home to Indiana and then just home at Indiana, there's definitely some drama that I was involved in, but it was more just based on maybe having to cut myself off from certain people. Funniest story I'm actually going to tell you. This is I'm glad because there's not a lot of conversations based on our times in between college and now, or after college, that we have really gotten a chance to speak about. But there was one situation. This is I think I may have told this on a vlog, probably not, but this is going to be special for the podcast. There was a situation one time where I was trying to get an opportunity to have a business manager and basically someone who's going to bring in more commercial content and bring in more commercial clients to me. So specifically, whether that's local businesses or major businesses, franchises and stuff like that. It was more in that realm. I had two people approach me for this, right? One dude was somebody who he didn't go to high school with me, but he went to a school that was kind of like a rival school to Angola called Prairie Heights, like for football and basketball, that kind of stuff. And I didn't really know his background, but Prairie Heights, for all of the people in Indiana, in the Northeast Indiana area, Prairie Heights is the only school that I know of specifically that has somewhat of a film and not film, but a television and photography style studio class. And that was always interesting that Prairie Heights, out of all schools, had it. Let me just tell you, this school is like, it's basically in the sticks. It's basically in the country. And it's not a big population in the school. And they have a film in like Angola. We're going to talk about that eventually, but I'm trying to bring something like that to Angola. I'm not going to be the teacher, but I'm trying to bring that to Angola because I want that for him. I want that for my hometown. But anyway, the school had it. This dude, I'm not going to say any names, but came in and tried to be a business manager for me. And he didn't really he was very compelling the first few times we had met. But after that, he kind of just decided to stop. He just decided to stop. He didn't have any energy for it, and that's fine. He couldn't keep up with the type of energy that I was bringing, so I had to just move on from that. Another guy reached me who I was dealing with at the same time. So I actually dealt with these two people at the same time. And the other guy, the first dude was a white man. Not saying that really makes the difference, but maybe. And the other dude was a black dude who was a little bit older than me. The first guy, the white kid, was like my age. The black dude was a little bit older. He's probably like in his 30s or something. And this dude was a very slick talker. Very slick talker. He could sell sand to a beach. You know what I mean? He can sell salt to a slug. He can sell ink to a pen. He can sell keys to a piano. Like, he's one of them type of guys. And he definitely sold me on a few things. The thing is, though, is that we didn't necessarily talk too much about what we could do business wise for me. And I want to say SW Films was created at this time, or maybe not. I can't necessarily remember. I think SW Films wasn't a thing then. But yeah, so basically, you know, it came to a point where I got tired of the first guy because he just gave up. And then this other guy who I dealt with, we only had 2 conversations. And none of those conversations were about business thoroughly. No contracts were made, nothing. Nothing was really talked about and what the possibilities are. We spoke about, maybe a few things that could happen, but not to my expectations, because I'm not there. When I was in Indiana, especially during that time, I was very naive to just trying to bring along whoever wanted to help out and whoever, had interest in SW Films. Now it's not like that, especially because my notoriety is growing a little bit more. And I just have to be more careful about the things that the people and things that I bring around me, as you do, you have to do yourself as well. But basically, long story less long, I made a post on Facebook, which I would say is probably the mistake that I made maybe before for this drama to happen. But I basically just say, yeah, look, I've had these people try to come help me out. And yeah, I can't have this type of energy. People suck. Whatever. I forget exactly the exact way I said it, but basically, this guy who did that, who reached out to me, was like, he said, I'm gonna take you to court and all this kind of stuff, and wanted to sue me. I'm thinking to myself, bruh, what are you talking about? We didn't have any paper contract, nothing. Ain't nothing was said that said, hey, you're going to help me out with this stuff for a certain amount of X amount of time. And you like certain amount of percentage of money. Like, what? So it kind of became to a point. It just was funny how that drama ensued. And somebody I knew him personally, and that situation kind of got handled from there. But other than that, personally, I just thought that was a very, that was one of them dramas that I remember. But a lot of my drama wasn't that I'm bringing drama. I don't ever bring it. I definitely have an opinion.
I believe you, bro. I believe you. I know you don't bring the drama.
I know. I just went on a whole rant. But drama happens everywhere you go, and this happened out here too. The drama has mainly just been, sometimes I feel like some people exhaust their relationships. Some people don't know how to really, collaborate and interact with people. One thing that's very important in this industry, and I also wish I could have told this to the Full Sail people, and I would say this to any creative out there, is you have to be passionate with your emotions of how you attach yourself to your projects, but you can't be so sensitive to because the moment you open up your heart, someone is going to shoot an arrow into that shit just to break you down. And sometimes no one's intentionally doing that. Sometimes the situation and an environment just causes for you to get hit with a stray bullet. And it's like, how are you going to react to that? And that's just one thing that is very important. Me personally, I kind of walk around sometimes with a very nonchalant attitude, because at the same time, I have to remember what is really, really important to me. You know what I mean? There's only a few specific things that are really, really important to me. And when those things get affected, sure, I got something to complain about, worry about, whatever. But even then, it's just like you have to learn how to react to those things. And I think that's very important.
But we also, to piggyback off what you're saying, is that,
yeah,
there are a lot of people in the industry right now that are a little jaded.
Very.
Just because of it's exactly what you said. Being an artist, being a storyteller, being a craftsman, or whatever you want to categorize yourself as in the industry, you put yourself into your work. A lot of us do. I'm guilty of it, and I don't really even think it's something you should feel guilt over. I mean,
definitely
you
not.
bring your experience, you bring your insight, you bring everything, yourself essentially into your project, into your work. It's like opening up a wound or a band-aid. Like, you write what you know, right? Ernest Hemingway has this great quote where he says, there's nothing to writing. All you do is sit down at a typewriter and bleed. And that's what it is. That's what it is. You open up your wounds and you give yourself over to the process. And in doing so, yeah, if someone shoots it down, if someone says something that's a little negative, I mean, you put everything, all this effort, all this passion, and action into something
Mm-hmm.
that, and you're hoping ideally it resonates with almost anyone who comes into contact with it. That's the thing about art. That's the thing about filmmaking in general. It's subjective, you know? So what might be for someone may not be for another person. And it took me a while to get the hang of that. And I think it's a good thing why I got off of Facebook, because a lot of people are so excited and so enthusiastic on sharing their opinion. There's nothing wrong with sharing your opinion. I'm not, for me, I think you can get into problems in saying, oh, well, this person's right or this person's wrong or something like that. No, you have your opinion. I have my opinion. Doesn't make it right. Doesn't make it wrong. We just have our different opinions and that's it. You know what I mean? But when you put so much time and effort into something, your passion, your work, I have this film right now that I've put a lot into. And every time I look at it, I see all the mistakes. I see all the things I could have done wrong. And at the end of the day, I'm my worst critic. So even if someone says something that's a little negative, even if someone says something, oh, you should have done this, you should have done that, I know at the end of the day, if I'm going to be honest with myself, real with myself, and true to me, I have to acknowledge all those things that I've done wrong, all those setbacks, all those things that I can improve on in the future, and get my craft to move and progress the way it needs to. So I'd say be wary of other people's opinions and advice, you know, but at the end of the day, it matters what you think of your work. So someone may have
Exactly.
a different opinion. It may hurt, you know, you may find yourself a little jaded and a little nonchalant in other aspects and stuff like that. But I would say, honestly, stay as passionate and be as emotional as you can, because artists are emotional beings. We are.
Absolutely. Yeah.
We're naturally emotional. Oh, we're naturally sensitive. I don't know why, you know, being sensitive has this negative connotation to it. I don't think there's anything wrong with being sensitive. When you're passionate about your work and you give everything to it, you're damn right you're going to be sensitive to how it's perceived and everything like that, because you're putting yourself out there. It's not just the work. The work is an extension of yourself. You're putting your work and yourself out there, hoping that people are going to receive it well. And then when it's rejected, they're not just rejecting your work. It feels like they're rejecting you. And when it feels like they're rejecting you, then it can become personal. And it's like, well, don't make it personal. But
Right.
then we are artists. We have to make it personal. Everything is personal. I would just say, you know, handle it professionally. And you have your opinion. I have my opinion. Does it make it right? Does it make it wrong? That's just how it is.
Yeah. The only kickback I would give on the sensitivity part is maybe just the timeline of the sensitivity, you know, like
Yeah.
your product having, you know, someone reviewing your product negatively or something like that. I can get where there can be some sensitivity there, but even if it's not your product, sometimes if you're just you're working on, you know, on something, and you kind of get dealt with a situation to where you feel like you might be held responsible for something typically bad or negative that you may have done. And then, you know, the very moment that you get dealt with the consequences of that, you really fall and flake under pressure. And it's interesting. I mean, there's a certain situation of a person who I'm not going to name that I know like that out here in the Bay. And I hear about it and I'm like, damn, you know, I realize, and I just kind of see how being sensitive like that can really kind of fuck you over in this industry. And a lot of people don't like that because you have to have a very tough skin out here in this industry, man. Like you have to, you know, you have to. And luckily, see, my thing is how I kind of came into Full Sail and how I also kind of come into I would say how I come into just also here in the industry is sometimes I remember when I went to Full Sail, I was the ex-football player, right? This big black dude, obviously not as wildly steroided up like yourself. I'm just playing. But we'll get to that too.
That's a good one. Yeah, that's a good one.
You know, but I just looked at it as that a lot, you know. And then my thing is that I'll keep it all the way honest. I used to be like, all right, look, ain't nobody gonna come in here and play with me because I'll just beat their ass. That's how I thought. And, you know, it wasn't always a good way to think like that when I think about it, and still to this day, right? Because as much as you might get annoyed by somebody on set, and just in general in life, how you might get mad and angry about a certain situation, sometimes you have to realize what is personal and what is not personal. And that's where the sensitivity you have to check yourself, you know? For instance, I love my cousin Hilton Day. My cousin Hilton has given me so much just in my career out here, and has helped me get a great start out here in the Bay. And I appreciate that. But when I work with him, sometimes I'll be wanting to whoop his ass. And I love you, Hilton. If you happen to listen, I want to whoop his ass sometimes. You know what I mean? Because my thing is, when I was younger, teachers, right? I always used to look weird about how teachers would talk to you when you're not there, when you're not their child. They would talk to you like in these very reprimanding ways and very strict ways. And I never liked that. Never. I'd always be like in my mind, you're not my mom. Why are you talking to me like this? You know what I mean? Like it really spawned like that, I think, through middle school, high school, because I used to get in trouble a few different times. And it just spawned in me. I didn't like that. But then you have to remind yourself. And I remember someone who I worked with on a project like a while ago, earlier this year, actually, kind of said the same situation, that, they're creative, but they don't like to be told what to do. And I get it. You want to be your own boss. You want to take your own leaps for certain things. But I kind of had to correct him a little bit and just say, hey, it's not, I get it. I understand. But the thing is that there's always some direction. There's always some type of advice and feedback that you should have from other people sometimes when you're creating these different things and when you're working in different environments. And basically I was just like, yeah, you can't be like that. You have to learn how to work and collaborate like that, because it just helps you with your interactions and your social skills, I think, personally. But yeah, back to Hilton, specifically my cousin. Yeah, sometimes he'd be talking to me like that, and I'd be like, man, I just want to whoop your ass. But I know it's all in good love and all in good purpose. Yeah.
But brother, to also add more to what it was that we were talking about too, when it comes to, feeling that sensitivity aspect to it. We talked about this briefly on the other podcast that we did, or the first time we ran it. But it also deals with a lot of insecurity.
Absolutely.
Us as artists, us as artists and as human beings, we all have something we're insecure about. I do. That's a part of being human. And when I make my work, and you put so much of yourself, flawed as an individual as we are, put so much of yourself into your work, it becomes an extension of you. You are insecure by nature, because what if this part doesn't hold up? Or what if this person doesn't see it this way? You're waiting for people to sort of look at you and to look at your work and say, hey, you did a good job. Hey, you're valuable, or give you some kind of recognition. That's what we want.
Absolutely.
We want that recognition, because then it makes you feel like you're good enough. Then it makes you feel like I've done something that a lot of people like and they're connecting with. And in a way, if they're acknowledging the product that you did, they're acknowledging you. So it has a lot to do with insecurity as well. When it comes to sensitivity, when it comes to, being a perfectionist, in many ways, to my detriment, I've been obsessed over certain projects to an extent that you should not be obsessed with. Like, if you edit a scene, and I'm not exaggerating, you can talk to Trevor about this, you can talk to Jose about this. If I edit a sequence of a scene over over 100 different edits of the exact same scene, and go through all 100 edits over and over again, just trying to find out of all the people that I know right now in my circle, what would the majority think of and say is the better scene? I think you kind of, have a screw or two loose in your head. Like, literally, for me, being a perfectionist, it all stems from being insecure and not trusting my instincts and not trusting what it is that I want to communicate to the world. And I think you do have to have a thick skin, like you were saying. You do have to have it in this industry, but also you don't want to be stagnant in your perfection, being a perfectionist, because that is only gonna stop progress. You know what I mean? At the end of the day, when you make something, you put your time and your effort and everything into it. You put it out there in the world. How it's perceived is how it's perceived. But at the end of the day, you want to know that you gave everything to it, that you did everything you could to make it the best product that you're pleased with and that you're happy with. If you can do that and walk away from it, doesn't matter how other people see it. If you can do that, then you've succeeded in my book.
Absolutely.
You have to feel it.
Yeah, and it's funny that you say the stagnant, because like perfectionists, I seen a post one time on Twitter, and I wish I could have saved it, because it always sticks in my mind sometimes, and also why I try not to be a perfectionist is procrastination is a big thing of perfectionism. And I really believe that, because when you are a perfectionist, you don't really finish anything. You don't really sometimes, like I feel like for most perfectionists, they don't finish anything. And then another quote or something I seen from an acquaintance of mine. I remember she said something about how perfectionist, just try, like being a perfectionist isn't good, because then you try to see that in so many other things besides your just projects. You try to look for that in the people that you align yourself with. You want them to be perfect for you. You want them to be exactly what you want them to be. And like, I think about myself in general. I think about like relationships in general. Like I feel like that's something I'm kind of looking for too. And then I realized, oh, that's an issue. So I had to think about, well, where the hell is this perfectionism? Where's the core of this perfectionist problem that's happening right now? Like, there's not a project that I'm like doing at the moment where I'm like, okay, I want this to be fucking perfect, because I realize it's not going to be perfect. You know what I mean? It's not going to be perfect. Like we spoke about my short film, Black Rose Wanders, which was such a great conversation, because I'm getting used to people giving me any and all types of feedback on my projects. I want that. I want the feedback. Specifically with Black Rose Wanders, I sent the film out to lots of different people to get different types of feedback, because I want that. I want to see a different kind of level of stair stepping in my career. I see where it's at, and I'm happy for it, But even then, right? I didn't like, because of how the film was done at the time, and just the situation I was in of trying to film the entire movie before I moved to California. I knew it wasn't going to be perfect. I knew I was rushing. I knew that there was going to be some mistakes, especially because I was the only person that worked on the entire movie besides my amazing composer, Daryl John Hannon. Shout out to Daryl. But
did a great job.
Great job. Besides that, I knew it wasn't going to be perfect, and I know that my next film, which I believe is a much better film than any of the movies that I've made, stories I've created, the next two films are much better than anything I've created. And those movies might not be perfect either. They won't be perfect.
But nothing, the thing is nothing's perfect, because you want to know why? The error is human. I mean, we're not machines. We're not robots. We're flawed individuals, and with different perspectives, different ideologies, different beliefs, and everything like that. And you put into something, you may be good at one thing and may not be the best at another. But if you're doing and you're micromanaging and managing sort of all these different positions, which we have to do as independent filmmakers right now, currently in our where we're at in our careers, there are going to be some parts that you may not be the best in, but who's to say 5, 6, 7 years down the line, you don't improve on it. And plus also one thing that I've learned, especially, going back to Full Sail and everything like that. And like I was talking about networking and everything like that. I had this very calloused attitude, after my experience with DCI. I said, you know what, I'm just going to go ahead, do my own thing and work on these spec projects, work on these projects and try to figure out, a way on how to do it. In hindsight, I think that was good, because it allowed me to learn sound design. It allowed me to get more into my post-production work, my pre-production work, my camera work, and everything like that, because I was doing a lot of stuff. I was doing a lot of stuff and making projects with, a big, big projects in my mind with little to no money, and trying to make it come to fruition. It was very difficult. But one thing that I now see as a filmmaker, especially working on Menagerie Affair, is that you want to surround yourself. If you're a director, if you're a writer, if you're a producer, cinematographer, production designer, it doesn't matter. You want to surround yourself with people who are on top of their craft, people who know what they're doing, who are on their game, and who are bringing it every single day, because in many ways you're going to level up with them. It becomes this competitive nature, and it's all right to be competitive. I'm very competitive. Just don't let it, consume you. I'll just say that. But it's good to have that it's good to have that competitiveness to you, because when you're working with these people who are just so much better than you in all these different aspects, you become a sponge and you soak up all that information. I did this project, back in 2015. I did the boom, I did the sound, I did everything, just like you, talking about your film. You've done all that kind of stuff. Yes, it's not perfect. Why? Because you were the one that was wearing all the hats. But taking that experience, right, learning all those different aspects and growing in and seeing the stuff that you can improve on, doesn't necessarily mean the next project you do, you're going to wear all those hats again. You surround yourself with people who are extraordinary at what they do, and you have a dialogue with them. Why? Because you have the experience of doing that. It may not be the best experience. You may not be, able to do the work that they're able to do, but you have that dialogue. And I think in many ways, when you do go to film school, a lot of people, at least I did, I took this idea of, I'll just do it by myself. I think that's the wrong approach. To anybody who's listening to this podcast right now, it's not just you. It just like it takes a village to raise a child. It takes a village to make a movie, to make it in this industry. No one who's accepting a Grammy right now, or who's at the Oscars accepting an Academy Award, did it all by themselves. No, it's the people you come into contact with. It's the people that's on your journey, that's on the journey with you, and the people that you've worked on countless projects that sort of get you to that position. Yes, you have to have the wherewithal, you have to have the determination, you have to have the passion, the drive, all that kind of stuff. Those are great qualities to have. You have to have those things, but you have to also be willing to open up your world a little bit more. I was always I'm an introvert by nature. I'll just let that know to a lot of the people who are watching. I'm an introvert.
The people could probably tell.
Yeah, exactly. So it took me a while to kind of open up, but the minute that I did and started to work with all these other people that are extremely talented, that's when I begin to see the quality of my work shoot up. That's when I begin to see opportunities and doors open up. You know what I mean? So it's the people you let into your world. That's the real goal, and I think that's where a lot of the benefit can be had.
1000%. You're absolutely correct on all of that. I mean, I think for myself, right, when I think about just how I grew up, I used to always say I was an introvert. And then I kind of realized, well, am I really an introvert? Like, what is a real introvert? And then I kind of said what my hero and idol, Kendrick Lamar, had said, that he said antisocial extrovert. And I'm like, I think that's what I am, but then I also still think I'm introverted in some ways too. Because literally, right, how my life is kind of set up now is work is like the only thing that I'm like outside of the door with. Now there's other things, I just got back a gym membership, which actually was great. So I'm about to start getting back because I had stopped working out heavily. Man.
That's dope.
I got back in the gym because, man, that was like a huge part of my life too. Just, playing football and stuff, just still working out consistently. Even when I graduated, always in the gym with my friend Nick Spears. Shout out Nick Spears if you happen to listen or watch this. But always working out. And now I'm back out with that. And then I love to hike. So I haven't hiked in a little while recently, but like hiking is great because it's California. It's beautiful out here. So it's, there's a lot of opportunities for that. But other than that, though, when it comes to just me interacting with folks, the only way I'm going to meet a lot of new people is going to be at work, or it's going to be on these dating sites. I'm going to keep it honest, or door dashing. Sometimes when I drive for DoorDash as well, for the people who might not know, I do that sometimes whenever I'm not working on film stuff. But basically I might meet somebody randomly through that too. I definitely have met a few, not a whole lot, but a few people through that method as well, but I don't know. I still feel introverted now that I live in my own home, my own space by myself, which is like a rarity in California, or in the Bay Area, at least. It is, I feel more introverted because I like to be home inside. I like to just be in my space. I've been mainly because I've been designing my space how I want it to be. I'm trying to create a nice creative look, like how it all looks here on my side. For all the people that are watching the excellent podcast on YouTube, it could look very different very soon. I don't know. I don't have any plans to change up anything right away, but for the people who have watched episode 1 or 2 or whatever, it was very different. I was living in a different space. Now I live by myself with the Jaws poster up. So it's very different. Just in terms of the growth of that. But I say all of this random stuff for me to say, it is great to let people in your life and build the right relationships. And I will say Full Sail it did that in long ways, because all the people at Full Sail who I still talk to frequently, the person I probably speak to the most from Full Sail will probably be Dari. Dari was one of my first people that I met when I first started out, and then he kind of took a few months off, and it was a few months behind us as far as graduation. But that's my homie, that's my guy. He was on the first episode of the podcast. Amazing person. Trevor, I feel like it's always special to talk to Trevor, because Trevor I like having a conversation with him. Trevor's one of those people who I felt like was very awkward in college and very just introverted himself. But whenever we have a conversation, there's so much relation that we have in different things. And I feel like Trevor is also one of them type of people to challenge a person in a good way, in a positive way. And that's what makes me really appreciate that brother completely. Ty, it's been so long since I've spoken to Ty. I haven't seen him post much on Facebook.
Does he even still know English? I don't even. I'm just trying to. Listen, I don't know.
What? It's been years. He still knows it. Of course.
That was a bad joke, everybody. Okay, that was a bad joke.
Oh goodness, that's hilarious. Of course, look, if he lost his ability to speak English, I don't know what the fuck he got going on. But look, Ty, I haven't spoken to Ty. It's been a while. The last time I spoke to Ty, I want to say, was sometime last year. I actually spoke to Deshaun, Trevor, and Ty all at once one time on like a Facebook video. That was the last time. And, speaking to Ty, I remember one time I spoke to Ty. It was like on a music video shoot I was doing when I was living back in Indiana. Random shoot. And I forget, I was waiting for something for the shoot, but me and Ty had a conversation for like an hour or something before the shoot started. And it just felt so good because he just kind of talked to me out of nowhere, and then he's kind of talked to me recently about working on all these different films like Matrix and all this kind of stuff. So he wanted to have conversations about that. And it was just so good to have a chance to talk to him, because he lives in a completely different space. His name originally is Fandon, I think. Fandon?
Yes, it's Fandon. Yes.
Fandon.
Make sure you pronounce it correctly. It's Fandon.
Fandon. And we called him Thai for Thailand. He's from Thailand, native from Thailand, went to America to go to Full Sail. And, basically, Ty just lives in a whole different world, like he his family had like a production company out there. He got money and, like Ty has a whole different space that he's in, so shout out to Ty as well. And then Deshaun, I don't know how to explain Deshaun.
Wait, is Deshaun still in America? I just want to know, is he still in America? Is he still in the United States, or is he did he leave the country already?
I'm pretty sure he's still in America. He's got to be in America still. Deshaun is one person who I can't wait to get on the podcast as well. But Deshaun has been one of those two people where he's kind of gone through a lot, I feel like, after college. And he's someone who still seems to keep it kicking and still seems to hold on to what he loves, which is the film. Because, a lot of stuff a lot of people that we know from our class specifically, man, don't do film. They never did anything with film, or they did some stuff with film, but they did it in a way to where they're not as fucking psychotic as we may be. because think of it like this, right? What I'm a victim of, I think, maybe not a victim. Let me not say that. But what I put myself in is that the film industry, my career is like one of the only things I care about. That's like number one. And then family, my immediate family, is also a number one. But sometimes I have to place my career over that sometimes to give what I want to give to them. You know, like I tell my mom, I want to buy you a house one day. Mom, I want to take you on vacation one day. Mom, I want to do this. Dad, I want to take you on vacation. Dad, I want to buy you a car, whatever. Brother, same stuff. And it's just like, to do that, I have to detach myself. That's what I feel like. I'm not saying that's right or wrong, but sometimes I have to detach myself. And my immediate family is what matters to me the most. Family in general, I'm sorry to the family that may be listening. I still love all of you. But family is not necessarily an important thing to me. If I'm just being completely honest, it just isn't. You know, my connections with some family is not there really. And it's probably based on both sides, but specifically maybe how I look at it from people not trying to outwardly connect. But of course, seeing all of these different things that I do now and these different projects that I'm a part of and people celebrities they might see me with or whatever, or see me working with, you know, then that's when people want to kind of leech on to you to have a conversation or whatever. But I become somewhat of a hermit because of that. The reason I'm introverted, antisocial, you know, extrovert, whatever, the extrovert comes from just me being a director and me having a passionate about the things that I talk about, but and antisocial in the spots that I just don't. I'm trying to sit inside my space and work on what I want to work on, live how I want to live, be by myself so I'm not bogged down by whatever. And that's kind of it. That's kind of how I operate. But now you got to think there's people that we graduated with who are much older than we were, who have families. So they can't necessarily afford to do that because they have children, they have wives, they have baby mamas, they got whatever, baby daddies, whatever. They can't necessarily afford to do that all the time because it can hurt their family. And, you know, knock on wood, I'm glad I don't have no children. So it's just like it places people in different perspectives. But a lot of people that we know have not gotten a chance to make any sort of moves or rise in this industry. And it's kind of unfortunate because, you know, Full Sail is a very expensive place. You know, luckily I got a scholarship, so it cut my stuff in half. But still, even then, it's still expensive. And I need to pay it. But a lot of people got kind of cut with that because some people might think to themselves, wow, I just spent all that money, $80,000, and I don't have anything to my name in this industry. I haven't done anything. I haven't stepped my foot in anything in this industry. And I feel bad for those people sometimes. And, you know, hopefully all of them are doing well.
But hopefully they're doing well. But I have to acknowledge this. I don't want to lose this train of thought. For what you're saying right now, there is a mental health crisis going on. I especially, I can only speak about our industry. I think in the broader sense, it's going on in the world, and we're seeing that play out a lot, especially in people our age and our generation. But there is a mental health crisis that's going on. And I think in many ways, when we talk about that sensitivity, when we talk about rejection in this industry, you are rejected almost every single day. All right, I can't tell you how many projects I've made, how many opportunities I've had, or this, that, and the other, and how many rejections I've had. Like I've had 99 no's. I'm willing to even say I had 100 no's and had that 100, that one yes, that made it 101. Like you get rejected almost single day, and not everybody's built out for it. Like you're doing all this work, you're putting yourself into trying to level up and everything like that. And no matter, it feels like no matter how much you continue to progress, that rejection is still there. So
right.
it is very difficult. And unfortunately, when it comes to film school, when it comes to, because, you know, Full Sail is a trade school, basically what we're saying. It's a trade school. And when you're spending $80,000, $70,000, $90,000, $100K, all right, for some people, $100K, and you're going through all this rejection. You have to pay back this debt. You're handling life responsibilities. Then you become lonely. You become isolated. You become all these kinds of things. It eats away at a person, and sometimes you can have mental health issues, which are a big thing. I mean, if you get injured, like I broke my arm when I was younger, I've had stitches, man, I got scars all over my body. Yeah, you can go ahead and make it heal. You can go to the doctor, they'll put stitches on, make it heal, 4 to 6 weeks. But when you have mental health issues, you don't just slap a band-aid on it. That's something that sort of just eat away at you. And I think with the tons of rejection that comes with the industry, that school loan that you have to pay back, and living in a pandemic and handling life issues and all this kind of stuff, it can eat away at a person. I think film school is important, but I also think it's what you make of it. I don't think to be the next Steven Spielberg, to be the next Christopher Nolan, or to be the next STEFON WHITAKER or the next Andrew Domville, I don't think you need to go to film school in order to achieve that. Warner Brothers isn't looking to hire a person with a BA or a bachelor's. I mean, if you want to really specialize in corporate, then do corporate. They look at that kind of stuff. That's a good thing to have. But if you're trying to, make movies in Hollywood with the studio system, or even in your own production company, you don't need a bachelor's in science and film to go ahead and do that. You don't. I've worked with so many entrepreneurs, so many successful people. These few athletes I'm working with right now, they have McLarens, they have Lamborghinis, they have Ferraris, they have all these kinds of things. You know what I'm driving? Well, don't worry about what I'm driving. But it's not no Ferrari, okay? It's not no Lamborghini, okay? So honestly, at the end of the day, there are all these kinds of things that are going on. And when we talk about the people that we graduated with that aren't doing it anymore, I don't blame them. There's no shot to them. This industry, to really make it in this industry, you have to be another animal. You have to be able to take that rejection. You have to be able to really be able to sacrifice all these kinds of things, whether it comes to relationships and all this kind of stuff, to really, really make it in the industry. How many people, like I just recently watched Barry Jenkins' The Underground Railroad, which is on Amazon Prime. One of the best series I've seen all year. I'm going to be tweeting about it this week. I can't stop thinking about it. So impactful. Very difficult for me to even get past the first episode. Didn't think I would be able to finish
have seen
all
that.
of it.
I've heard of it. Yeah.
It's very powerful. But I mean, when I listen to some interviews by him and other people that are in the industry and stuff like that, they didn't have families, and still don't even have families until they actually got in their 30s or 40s, when they're actually doing what it is that they've been dedicating so much time and effort towards. You know what I mean? Like, it's difficult to manage that. I'm not saying it's impossible, but it's difficult to manage that. So you have to place your priorities in order. Like, is directing this studio film or doing this more important to you, that you're willing to undergo certain things that you can't have right now in the moment? Are you willing to do that for this? If you're not, then you should probably think about doing something else, because it may call for you to actually do that. And not a lot of people are willing to do that. And that's not right. It's not a right thing or a wrong thing. It's, to each his own. But there are a lot of issues that are associated with that. And I had to chime in when we were talking about Full Sail, especially when paying back school loan. Anybody who's thinking about going to Full Sail or going to film school in general to do this, let me be clear. You do not need a degree to do this. It helps. You build your network. You build relationships. It teaches you a lot of the stuff theoretically about filmmaking. But we're living in a digital renaissance where you can go to YouTube University, where you can go to all these sites online and get just as much information that's accessible online. You can get, instead of going to film school. So there are a lot of avenues right now. I just want to make that clear, because I do see a lot of people, including myself, who struggled with mental health issues as a result of doing this endeavor. And it should be acknowledged. It should be acknowledged. It's not a weakness. All right. We're all human beings. It should be acknowledged.
1000%. And I love where the conversation is going because it goes into so much. I think this is very important. Yes, I want to talk about more with the mental health aspect in these industries and where the industry is going. Because there's a lot of issues in the industry right now that is happening that we're going to get to. But I do want to speak more on just the mental health aspect of it. I mean, I agree, and sometimes we add. I will say that sometimes we add a lot of the stress to our mental health ourselves a lot of times too. I specifically have done that for myself. A huge part of my career is just putting the stress on myself. Especially when it comes to like maybe personal relationships, um, how I feel about maybe some people supporting me or how people's opinions of me. Sometimes that'll get to me, but I had to learn to kind of cut it all away and cut it all out because you know I have to remember what, like I said, what's really important, what's really really important for me. And sometimes when I see people complain about certain things, of course you never know what is affecting a person, what they're dealing with. But like I always just have to just remind people too, is just like you have to know what's really important to you. One great example, I always use this example of myself personally. I am an Alabama football fan. I love the Crimson Tide, roll Tide, roll. Okay, damn it, I'm love Alabama. All right. Um, I remember watching them play college football. They, I would always get so damn upset and mad when they would lose to a team. Back when they used to lose. Now we're just kicking every team's ass. But they have an opportunity to lose still, But I would always get upset about that. I'd be so mad. I remember one time LSU beat Alabama. It was a big game too. And I'm thinking to myself, damn, I'm about to get roasted by everybody in high school because everybody knew I was an Alabama fan. If there's one thing that people knew about me in high school was I loved Godzilla. I'm an Alabama fan. And yeah, I think those are the only two. Oh, and Lee's Chicken. That Lee's was the best place ever. Everybody at Angola High School who maybe listening to this, or Indiana who I know, knows that specific fact. But I loved Alabama, so I was like, damn, I'm about to get roasted. Then me and my brother Roosevelt, shout out to my big bro. We would always he would I remember one time we just argued. I remember I got so mad at something he said after that game that I like threw a pillow at his face, and then he like threw a pillow at me really hard and slapped me or something crazy. I was younger. I was so upset. But then I had to remind myself, this is such an extreme example, but I had to remind myself, you know what? Alabama lost, but at least I'm not dead. That's how I looked at it, which is an extreme example.
Yeah, that's
But
extreme, man. Yeah.
extreme. But like, I was so passionate about Alabama. So passionate. And think about it. That passion would completely stop if I was dead, if I was lifeless. That passion is no longer there. I mean, it's not there for me to speak it. And I had to remind myself that, which is just such an extreme example. But I use that for example sometimes today. That's the whole reason I made my album No Sweat Pimp. I made that album because that had the title in itself, which came from Daria. Shout out to Daria again. That title is that it's all like it's no sweat. Like the things that we may worry about, we have to remember what is really important to us. Why family is maybe not the most important thing to me. My immediate family is very, very important to me because without them, none of this stuff could be possible. Without my mom and dad, I wouldn't be alive, right? That example. Like I wouldn't be here to be like this. And because of their lifestyles and because of their history and because of their characteristics and because of their genes, whatever, I could not be who I am today. So I that is important to me. My family's health, my family's look at life is important to me, you know? But when it comes to like little things, like little issues in the industry, certain things in career wise, I haven't like knock on wood again. I hope there's nothing that I face that comes to that point to where it just like, would eliminate my career or blacklist me or whatever. Like I have enough common sense and knowledge to know what is right and what is wrong. So my thing is just like, the little issues that might come on set with somebody, that's not really all that important. This person ain't did this, or it's not that important. That doesn't affect me mentally. What can affect my mental health sometimes? What has affected my mental health has just been relationships, and finding the right person for you, letting people in sometimes is where those mental health issues come around, because you can feed off people's energy, a lot. And, me personally, I'm big on that. I'm big on trying to let the right people around me, because I have a lot of energy myself. So letting someone with very low vibrations around me, that can destroy everything that I've created, if it really affects me like that. And I've become so armor plated in the mindset like that, to where I feel like that's not as easy anymore, sometimes. But sometimes you get to a point where you fall in love, and you it hurts you sometimes. As much as it may heal you in ways, you're also forming a new wound, or forming a softer skin to like I said, to open up the heart. And not purposefully, but sometimes you're gonna catch a stray arrow and it hurts. But I say all this to say, man, like, mental health is so important. I wish I could tell people what is best for their mindset, because my mindset is very specific. And, I have a project in the works to kind of help people understand my mindset and the ways that it's helped me creatively, to also help them creatively in whatever field it may be. But I wish I could say what could help a person in their mental health. But my only real advice I could give right now to people is just, you have to really understand what's important to you. Sometimes you might have to take a bunch of falls to really understand that. I had to take a bunch of falls to realize what was really a necessity for my well-being, mentally and physically and emotionally and spiritually. I had to know what that was. There's so many people, like everybody I mentored, for instance. I always talk about the people I mentored, because that was a very specific part of my life, because I myself, after high school, after college is when I mentored these folks. I never thought that I had the capacity to mentor anybody, even though I realized after that directing, which I said before, is about teaching, coaching, mentoring, all this kind of stuff. It's all within that. And that's kind of how I like to direct, is I like to really, get myself close with people and really explain a situation, however type of ways. But, I realized that a lot of those people I mentored was really going through a lot of mental health problems, like every single one of them in different ways. One person I mentored didn't really show it as much, but kind of did. If you don't mind, I kind of want to break off into like two specific instances of the mental health situation. I feel like with the people I mentored, and then you can comment on it. But basically, I just remember one girl that I mentored who I mentored her, and she was someone who I'd met prior before. And I just remember just hearing the way she was talking, seeing the way that she was like going about representing herself. I could just tell that she wasn't in the right mindset. And I remember at this particular place that I was in, where she was at, I kind of killed the vibe, because it was like a party or something, like a little small get together. I killed the vibe and was just trying to almost be like a father figure, like, hey, you need to stop doing this, but not in such a judgmental way, but more of just like a advice, a pre-mentor type of situation. And it eventually stuck with her, because she came back a year later or so and said, hey, I want you to help me out with this and that, as far as being an actress and a model. I'm like, okay, let's talk about it. And long story less long, that mentorship ended because she had a lot of stuff that in her past that had to force her to kind of give up what she was doing. And instead of like really trying to fight it how she could and try to get back to it, she gave into it and basically never became a model or an actress as she wanted to be. And I'm sorry to say, but I kind of knew I knew that would happen. I just didn't see a care of it, because she's already been affected a lot. And, she's, at the time, she probably wasn't working well enough to help herself, especially even with the advice that I gave. Probably didn't. Another situation was more of a person who they wanted to be an actor. I had all these classes made for him of like learning about Meisner acting and method acting. just a whole bunch of his stuff. Cause this is someone who me personally, I didn't know who really knew much about what it's like to be an actor. So I tried to give him the full breakdown as best as I could. And basically he wanted the gold. He instantly wanted to be at the top of the top. So he had went out to an audition for the show Empire, which was shot in Chicago, and went to Chicago for the audition as, I don't know if it was for a background actor or something like that, whatever it may have been, went for an audition of some sort, didn't get it. And then his wife specifically told him, "You're wasting your time. You should not be doing this. You didn't make the audit. You didn't pass the audition. You need to give it up." And the reason why I said it's a mental health problem is that there's some mental health issues that could have formed from that. Because imagine someone you love telling you that you need to stop doing this. It doesn't matter at what level that you're at. I can only imagine if someone told me, have the audacity to tell me that, Stefon, all the shit that you've done, it doesn't matter. You need to stop doing this. You should probably take a different direction. Now, I know that there's nobody in this fucking life that would ever dare tell me this, because I would slap the hell out of them. But imagine how that would make you feel. Now, I'm already in the armor-plated mindset, but imagine if you're in your softest and also most vulnerable state and someone tells you that, someone that you love, your wife, tells you that. Imagine what that does to you after that.
It's like that can hurt. It's kicking you when you're down.
Completely. And it's just, and that hurts. And from that, he never continued. He tried, all these people have tried to approach me, besides one. All these people have tried to approach me before of how to get into it again. And the most recent person that has done that, I can tell, has been going through a lot of mental health problems and has actually spoke about her mental health problems pretty openly and publicly. But it's just like, you have to learn how to take care of yourself. What I told that person who had to give up her desires for it is, I told her, I said, you really need to, you have to really assess yourself before you try to become in these type of industries, especially if you're trying to take it to a level that, like how me and you try to take it, which is, not psychotic all the time, but we want to be the best that we can be, which comes with so much, pressure. You have to learn how to address the elephant in the room of yourself. You know what I mean? You have to learn to address the elephant in the room of yourself before you can take that step. And a lot of people have troubles doing that.
You have to acknowledge the elephant in the room. And once you acknowledge the elephant in the room, then you have to believe that there is an elephant in the room. And then that belief is going to spark the action. I think at the end of the day, you need to seek help. We all, I think in some capacity, you need to seek help, because this thing that a lot of us deal with, especially in this industry, rejection is always going to be there. Criticism is always going to be there. It's how you handle it, and some of us don't handle it the best way. Look at some musicians in the past, or even, people in our industry. I mean, you hear about so many actors, so many celebrities, or people who have achieved that high level of success dying of overdose, dying of suicide, because even when you work so hard, and I want to make this clear, for me, my career in achieving this thing means so much to me, as it does to you, I'm sure. It means a lot to me, but I'm not naive. I understand that doing this comes with a price, and the price is heavy. It's a high price. It is a high price, but you have to be understanding that even when you do get to that level that you want to get to, when you are on top of the mountain, or when you've achieved this level of success that you've been working and dedicating so much time, hours, days, weeks, months, years of your life into this thing, when you do achieve it, okay, you give yourself a pat on the back, but all that stuff, all that mental health issues, all the rejection, all that stuff, it doesn't go away overnight. And that's why you see a lot of people who have achieved a high level of success right now struggling with mental health issues, dying of ODs and or of suicide, or all these kind of things, because they're finding other ways to cope. My thing is you said it great. acknowledge the elephant in the room, believe that there is an elephant in the room, because all beliefs, when you believe in something, all that does is spark the action. That will spark the action for you to actually go seek help, because then you start getting into other avenues like drinking or
Yeah.
drugs or other things, or things that can sort of consume you and take away from what it is that you want to do. I think you
Yeah.
have to acknowledge it and seek professional help for it. You know what I mean?
Absolutely.
That's the
Yeah.
best thing you can do.
Yeah. Cause I mean, everybody has different ways of coping. And I've never agreed with like people who cope, with drinking, or like smoking weed is very legal in every place, and I advocate for, for the legalness of
Except in Cali, man.
except except well,
Except
no, California
it's
is
not.
legal. It's legal forever.
It, yeah, it's legal. It's legal.
Yeah.
It's not illegal.
Yeah, no, I'm saying I want I'm an advocate for it being legal everywhere it can be.
Legal
Yeah.
everywhere. Okay, I see.
Yeah.
Okay.
The only thing I would say about that though, and most people know this because like I would say there's been times where I'm a casual person in that realm, but I don't do that as much because I always like to be in my own head without any type of substance, because I just feel like why I don't need that. That's not my enjoyment all the time. But I don't say it's right to cope even with just like when a problem happens and rises, people instantly go to smoking weed. And it might be a controversial topic for some people, because some people will disagree with that and some people will agree, but it's just more of the single fact of like that's not always the best way to deal with it, because all you really do is put you put a fog up over it, and then eventually that fog goes away and there it is again. There's your issue right in front of you once again. So the more you keep doing that, the more you keep doing the smoking, it's like, or whatever, drinking, it doesn't really deal with your issue. So you have to deal with it, in my opinion, not saying it's right or wrong, but like you have to deal with it through therapy. Therapy helped me a lot. I am in therapy. This podcast that everyone is listening to right now, they will know from the introduction, because in my introduction, I talk about how therapy was huge for me and how I wanted to launch this podcast right after therapy. And the thing is therapy was a huge help. I thought therapy was something I've always needed, but it really became a real, I think my breakup, my recent breakup was like the catalyst for me going into therapy. And that was a huge thing for me. It helped deal with that in ways, because I just kept talking about the conversation, talking about the topic of that breakup a lot. And it helped a lot, so shout out to my therapist. But anyway, like, yeah, there's so many different ways to deal with it. And I think what we're seeing now in the industry is interesting because, there's a strike that's happening. A strike that's bound to happen. When this podcast airs, the strike may be in effect or it may be out of effect. I have no clue, but I do want to talk about the strike briefly. So for the people who don't know, there are unions in the film industry. And one of the bigger unions in the industry for like camera and G&E and all the working crew on a lot of these big union jobs, like, movies and
Editors
television
and
shows,
stuff like that, yeah.
editors, all that, is the IATSE, which I forget the exact like whole thing of their what the hell do you call it? Of their, not euphemism, but whatever. They have the IATSE spells out a whole list of shit. But anyway,
it's an acronym. It's an acronym.
It's an acronym. That's the word. I don't know the whole acronym by hand, but the IATSE is a very huge union, and they work on all these big union jobs, and they are striking because Hollywood, or quote unquote the Alliance of Motion Pictures of Television and all that kind of stuff, they are not giving people the right living wages. They're not meeting the proper times for meals, and not times, they're not meeting the times for the proper breaks during holidays or weekends, not good turnaround times, just a lot of safety regulations and issues there. And basically the workers want to strike because this is causing issues for people physically and mentally, if you think about it too, because it's like, we don't have enough time. Like, we are working like slaves to make these movies, and it's specifically based on these streaming sites. I love Netflix and Hulu and Disney Plus and all these different kinds of streaming sites, but the heads of these companies are at fault because they want to continuously push out, seasons for their different products and their different shows, but they are really it's really at the cost of all the workers. And the IATSE wants to strike. Now, the thing is about it is when it comes to the base in the Bay Area, and I'm interested to kind of hear how this may affect you that you might think. The Bay Area is not always a lot of union jobs. It's a lot more non-union stuff, but it's the solidarity that people is wondering. They want people to all strike. They want not just the IATSE union workers. They want every single people who work in this industry to be in solidarity with them to strike. Now, where this poses a problem, where I want to talk about the positive and the negative, but where this poses a problem is that people still have to eat out here. People still have families to feed. People still got bills to pay. That could cause an issue because if everyone decides to strike, where your money coming from? If you don't have multiple streams of income, which eventually is something I want to talk more about on my podcast. But if you don't have multiple streams of income, you're kind of in trouble. Because, for me, myself, I DoorDash sometimes, right? DoorDash is an online app based, gig, type of app where you can make money from. And, DoorDash is also born and raised in the Bay Area. It is one of those tech companies that was based in the Bay. But, you can make a lot of money from DoorDash, but I don't, that puts a wear and tear on your car. So I don't do it all the time. I only do it on quote unquote days off whenever I'm not working on set. And I'll do it. But then I also know when to not do it because, I don't want to put my car at risk all the time. Plus it's just like, I only do it so much where I make a certain amount of money from it, So my thing is, when it comes to stocks, I have to get more into stocks and crypto.
I'm in stocks.
Yeah. So you're lucky, but some of that stuff, it definitely does help. But a lot of it it's a trial and error type of situation. You could end up losing lots of money on stocks or end up not getting as much money on stocks because you didn't sell this stock at a certain price and stuff like that.
Well, it also depends on if you're trying to day trade or if you're trying to do it long term too. I mean, if you're day trading, then there's a lot of that's a lot of stuff to do because you're looking at every difference every single day. But if you're looking at doing the S&P 500 or the Dows or something like that, that's like a long time that's like a long time 5 to 10 year process. Even if the stock market crashes, which a lot of people are predicting the market is going to be crashing very soon. It's like a bubble that's going on, very reminiscent of 2008 when the housing market crashed. But I don't want to take away, but there's a lot of stuff that's a whole nother thing, man. That's
a whole other thing. But basically, it poses a problem with that. Now, where the positive things comes in, if Hollywood didn't have any workers to make the stuff that they want to create, jobs are halted, productions are halted. We don't get a new season of what's a popular show? We don't get a new season of Stranger Things, which I love Stranger Things, but we don't get a new season of that. We don't get a new season of Euphoria. We don't get a new season of Atlanta. These are all shows that I love. So I hope that those get created. But and some of them are already finished and in the process of post, whatever. But anyway, those don't get created. New shows stop. New movies stop. Commercials stop because there's union commercials too. And a lot of union stuff. But all that stuff stops because the workers are not getting treated right. In Hollywood, the Alliance of Motion Pictures and Television say, okay, we can sign a new contract that says, hey, we're going to give you guys the right wages. Well, we're not going to go 14 plus hour days. We're going to hit the 10-hour days minimum instead of it being like, super, super long hours and crazy and giving the right turnaround times and all that kind of stuff, just making it safer and more livable for the workers on these jobs. That's the goal. That's what everybody wants. And all these different unions now, SAG, the DGA, the WGA, the PGA, all these different unions now are in solidarity for the IATSE. And that is huge. Now, especially once you start to get more SAG actors in there, like Seth Rogen, and then a few other people too, they've all kind of lobbied for the strike. Now, I don't know if you know too much about the writer's strike from back in like
I
2008
do.
or something, but that was a
I
huge
do.
thing too. They striked for a little
Yeah.
while, and that definitely that affected the industry. And guess what? They made a change. So, with that, I'm interested to see how it's going to happen because even though there's not a lot of union jobs that happen here in the Bay, I think it still could affect non-union jobs out here too, because simply because people want people to be in solidarity. There could also be an issue with that as well. I was speaking to someone on set yesterday who said it could be an issue about if people don't strike, if people keep working and they're friends with certain people on unions, or they know a lot of people in unions and they don't strike because, they obviously want to, live and survive out here in America and pay bills and all this kind of stuff, feed their families, that some people might get upset about that because they're not striking with them and all this kind of stuff. So it's a weird fine line. And I want everyone to know who's listening and watching this podcast. I don't have the official, notes and stuff like that set up as far as like what exactly is happening and what kind of stuff the Alliance of Motion Pictures and Television have said to the IATSE and what the IATSE has said to them and how this has all started. I would say just look it up for yourself. Google is your friend. Look it up. The strike is bound to happen. Me personally, how I feel about how it might affect me. Um, I'm not too worried. All of my stuff is kind of set and planned how I want it to be set and planned. But I have thought to myself, like, well, okay, say if there's a dry spell here in the Bay where there's no work for a few weeks, which that, could happen. Um, it's like, okay, it's simple. Not simple, but what I would do is I would just I would DoorDash a little bit, of course, but also if I needed to, I would go back home to Indiana for like however long, like a week or two, and just stock up on projects over there. Which at this time, I kind of said I was going to stop doing projects over in Indiana for a little while, especially if my budget isn't met. But it would be a lot more hustling on that side of it, just getting projects going over there or anywhere else, local businesses over here, and just continue to do that. So we'll really see how it goes. But what is your thoughts on the strike, man? And how does this affect you, do you think?
I mean, what's going on in the industry right now, it's not something that should be taken lightly. I do believe the strike, it's going to happen. I do think it's unfair when we talk about fair wages and sort of working over that 14-hour, I mean, think of it this way. You have movie stars in the industry, and they've earned every right. They've earned every inch of success. We have stars, even when it comes to TV, when it comes to series, when it comes to movies, that are making multi-million dollar deals. I mean, we
Mm-hmm.
even look at that one deal that Netflix sort of bought. I think Knives Out 2 and 3 for Ryan Johnson and for Ryan Johnson and James
Mm-hmm.
Bond. Daniel Craig, right?
Yep.
And
Daniel
I
Craig.
think
Yeah.
they paid like about, I don't know how much exactly, but I know each one of them. I mean, everyone has teams of people behind them. But from what I've been told is that these people are walking away with a lot of money, and none of that money is going to the grips, to the electrics, to all these people that are working 14 plus hour jobs or 14 plus hour days,
Mm-hmm.
having 30 minutes to eat lunch,
Or
having
no,
to
or
drive
no
home,
lunch even.
or
No
no
lunch sometimes.
lunch, no lunch sometimes, having to drive home very late, tired, getting in car accidents. We've heard those kind of stories and stuff like that. I think this is necessary.
Mm-hmm.
I do think this is necessary. I think, and the interesting thing that's gonna happen from this is how long the strike is actually going to be in effect. Because if this is
Yeah.
a strike that's going to be like a year,
Imagine.
the industry right now is already on the ropes. I mean, streaming is big. Streaming is big. Netflix, Amazon Prime, Disney is doing some great stuff. HBO Max, I don't really know the numbers or anything like that, but streaming right now is doing big. Uh, uh, but the thing is that if this thing is going to be like a year or two, with a pandemic that we still currently find ourselves living in right now, this let's not lose sight of that. We are living in a global pandemic still since 2020 is now 2021. We're getting ready to go into 2022 and we're still in a pandemic. Millions and millions of people who have lost their lives. You have all these protocols on set that you have to meet. I've been vaccinated. but not everyone has been vaccinated and all these kinds of things. So there's all these type of risks that are going on top of the 14 plus hour days, sometimes 16-hour days, not being able to eat, not being able to sleep, getting, all these kinds of things. You look at insurance, how are you going to feed your family? How are you going to do all these are all, these are all issues that should come to light, and something that we should be grappling with and dealing with. How do I think it's going to affect me? I don't think it's going to affect me at all. All the stuff that I currently find myself doing. I mean, I'm editing a few documentaries. I got this one opportunity to edit a documentary for Disney. Maybe that might affect it, but a lot of the work, maybe a lot of the work that I'm doing right now currently, I'm a free agent. So I'm doing a lot of stuff for my company, the Domville company. I'm doing stuff, passion projects, I'm following your footsteps, man. I'm doing passion projects for myself. And I'm working with a lot of clients right now. I built out a client base in LA, built out a client base in Miami, trying to build out a client base right now in Atlanta. And so that way, no matter where I go, I have work sort of coming in. It depends on how long the strike lasts. If it lasts for 2-3 years, it could affect me greatly. But right now, where I'm at in my career right now, I don't really see it, moving the needle very much.
Yeah, that's what I feel too. I feel like it won't affect me too much. Will this? Because like I said, it's a lot of non-union stuff out here. But I definitely do believe 1,000% that that a few jobs will probably it might not be. Some jobs will probably end up stopping. There might not be a lot of work happening for a little bit, and I believe it's the 100% right thing to do. I actually want to read this. I want to read this post that I screenshotted from a group who I've worked with a lot. Shout out to Mike Best. I don't know if Mike will be listening to this, but Mike Best, shout out to you. I believe he is in support of the IATSE, and I don't know if he might be in it. I think he's in one of the local unions for sure for G&E out in the Bay. But so he says this, and I screenshotted it because I thought it was a very perfect way to kind of sum up to like people who might not understand what the strike is about, because I've explained this strike a little bit to like people who I know in real life, my family and friends and stuff, and it's something that they don't understand, and they might not get the real impact of what this might mean for their favorite shows. But let's talk about it. So he says the AMPTP, which is the Alliance of Motion Pictures and Television and whatnot, he says the AMPTP has shown they have no regard for crew members' safety or well-being. We are asking for a raise to match inflation, meals at 6 hours, proper turnaround from ending one day to starting the next, putting an end to 14+ hour days, and for us to have enough time off on a weekend to do more than just laundry. The studios and streaming services have had record profits and are producing more shows than ever before, yet they won't give us a pay raise to match inflation and want to remove our meal period. This would be unacceptable in any other industry. Why should we be forced to work under those conditions? The truth is the world will go on without TV shows and movies. Vote for authorization to strike. It's time we stood up for our rights. And just hearing him say that, it's just very powerful, because I've been on a set, and I explained this on my most recent podcast with Steve Franks. Shout out to Steve Franks. I explained to him about this Matrix, right? And by the time this all comes out, Matrix has probably not came out yet, so I don't want to like speak too highly on it as much. But Matrix was one of those sets that had some shit just like that. There was like a 19-hour day one time that we shot. 5 p.m. to like 12 p.m. the very next day is when we ended, or I felt like at least when I went home. And it was so brutal. And they had something called French hours, which is, French hours is where you don't get a 30-minute or an hour lunch break. Someone will go to set, hand you your lunch, and you eat whenever you can, but the whole set is still working. That's insane. That's crazy. That's ridiculous. And it was like, as much as I not really loved, but as much as I had fun and experienced Matrix, that set was very awesome to be on, and the movie's going to be awesome. That was not one of the most fun experiences I've had on set, to keep it all the way honest. Like, I worked on Venom 2 at the same time, and Venom was a much better experience for me. So this industry is brutal, man. Its industry is so brutal. And this is also goes to the people who are listening, who are, in film school or wanting to be in the film school, pay attention to that stuff, because if you don't pay attention to it, you're gonna end up having a rude awakening when you get met with something like that. You may really, really love it, but when you don't understand of how it can affect your money and how it affects the livelihood of your mental health and physical health, it can be very, very brutal. So I say that to everybody, is to get yourself right, take care of yourself, and all that kind of stuff. But moving on,
health is wealth, man.
Health is wealth. Health is wealth. Moving on to back to you. We went off on a very huge tangent, which was good though. I'm glad. I love that we went on this tangent. I want to kind of go just briefly into post graduation for you. And this kind of might go into maybe some mental health stuff, possibly a little bit, maybe. But like, what was life like for you after Full Sail? Like, you obviously moved to LA not too long after graduation. I want to know what that experience was like for you to take that leap to California, into LA, and then Hollywood, basically.
Well, we graduated in 2016. I believe it was March 25th, 2016. I remember that date precisely because that's the date of my grandmother's birthday. So that was a good birthday present for her. For me, after graduation, I've already at that point during that period of 2015 was doing an immense amount of freelance work. So it kind of bled into 2016. 2016, I was on this period of just making as many short films as I could. I made Waving the Flare. Shout out to Jose Guzman and Ethan, that was that project that Ethan wanted to do. And to anybody who's listening to this podcast, Ethan is a gentleman that we went to school with. He had this passion project called Addicted, which stemmed from a person who deals with, I guess, pornography addiction. So he was trying to get this project off the ground for, quite some time. So, closer to graduation, we all got together. We made the project happen. That's a short film called Waving the Flare. It's on my Vimeo page if you want to check it out. Then I went on and made Midnight Kiss. Midnight Kiss was such a transformative endeavor and experience that I will take with me for the rest of my life. And I showed that film to Kevin O'Neill, one of our instructors at Full Sail University, one of my mentors. And he told me that was the first film of mine where he saw that it was me. That all these other projects that you've done, they're nice, it's great to put on your portfolio, but this is you. Your sense of humor, your sensibility, all these kinds of things. That's when I begin to see in filmmaking that you go to see a Quentin Tarantino movie, you go see a Christopher Nolan movie, they have their different sensibilities, their different directions, their different style. I think that's the right word, is style. Mm-hmm. And when I made Midnight Kiss in 2016, that was when I came into my own style. After making this, slew of short films prior, 2014, 2015, spec commercials, music videos, and stuff like that, I began to develop a style, and I was able to implement that style in that film, and from that film, able to move forward in other projects with it. So in doing that, I freelanced after Full Sail University, did a lot of projects in South Florida, specifically in Central Florida when it comes in that Orlando area and stuff like that. In 2018, I got a great opportunity to go out to California. I was a producer and editor for this house flipping documentary series that was launching. So I got to go ahead and produce the whole series and went out. The series, the headquarters was based in San Clemente, California, which is in Orange County. But I did a lot of work in Baltimore, did a lot of work in Houston, did some work in Atlanta, and a lot of work in Cali for that series. And the series was very successful, very thankful to have had that opportunity. As I was out there in California, hanging out with some of the guys we went to and, graduated with Deshaun and Trevor, went out and seen movies and, hung out and had a good
Yeah.
time and stuff like that. But we started to do some projects and stuff, here and there. Specifically, speaking about myself and my experience, I did a lot of freelance work, worked on some music videos, worked on some passion projects, made some more films and stuff like that. Then I had this epiphany. And to all those who are listening to this podcast, make no mistake about it, I am not a patient person. I'm really not patient. So there's certain things that I want to do, and I want to do it like right now. I don't want to wait a year. I don't want to wait a few months. Hell, I don't even want to wait a day or two. I just want to do it. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
So that's just my personality, and
Mm-hmm.
it's not a good thing. It's not a bad thing. I would just categorize it as it's unique to me. But I had this epiphany where I
That's
was like, you
funny.
know what? I want to make a film. I've been working on all these projects. I was working on music videos, working on all these great stuff, and the money was right. The money was good and stuff like that. But I wanted to make something. It's been at that period. I made Devil in White. I'm sorry. Go back to 2017. Made Devil in White, which is a concept for a feature film. I currently have in pre-production right now and developing. But it's been like it was like almost a 1.5 or 2 year period since I made a short film,
Mm-hmm.
and it was kind of driving me crazy. And I was like, I gotta make a film. I gotta make a film. So I wrote this film. Um, Actually, I'm sorry to go on a tangent. Let's rewind back. Before I went to California, I wrote this short film called Menagerie Affair. And I was like, okay, let me go ahead and try to make this in South Florida and stuff like that. And that's when I got the opportunity and then went to California. I put that short film on the shelf because I was doing all this work. I didn't have the time to go ahead and do it, or at least I was telling myself I didn't have the time to go ahead and do it. So I put that film on the shelf and I tried to figure out what it was that I wanted to do. And I found myself in this cycle where I was producing all this work, but it wasn't
Mm-hmm.
work that I was really uh, proud of. It wasn't
Mm-hmm.
work that I could honestly say, um, I could show this to this person and this, that, and the other. It didn't creatively fulfill me. I think it's the right terminology for me to use. It didn't creatively fulfill me.
Mm-hmm.
So I wanted to make this short film. I got the boys together, Deshaun and Trevor, took them to a park. I said, hey guys, listen, I want to make this short film. What's it going to take for us to get it made, or to have it to have it come into fruition? Of course, they
Mm-hmm.
told me all this logistical stuff, and it didn't work out. So in 2019, I said, you know what? I need to make this film. It's on the it's itching out, it's scratching at me. I got to make it. I'm gonna do whatever it takes to get it made. So in 2019, I started rewriting it and developed it a little bit further. Turned out to be a little bit bigger than what I thought. So it wasn't like this 4 or 5 page script I was going to do anymore. It turned into like a 70 page type of script. And I was like, okay, great. This, which wasn't my first feature that I wrote. The first feature I wrote is Putting on the Mask. I wrote that back when we were in college. And right now it is Devil in White, the fencing movie that I am currently working on right now. So it's been through some changes and stuff like that. But I'm no stranger to writing a feature film. So I wrote it and developed it a little bit further in 2019. I said, okay, you know what? I'm going to go back to Florida because that's where my base is. I know some actors. I know some people. I wanted to work with Jose Guzman again, who we graduated with. He produced Waving the Flare with me. He produced Midnight Kiss with me. This was going to be the third film that we produced together. So I wanted to go back to my home state, make this film with my brother that I love, and try to get it to, see what we could do with it. Treat it like a thesis project. So we had all this stuff going up, we had getting people together and stuff like that. Then 2020 happened.
It happened.
COVID-19 happened. And
It
let me
happened.
tell you, it did happen. And it shook the industry. It shook a lot of industries, a
Shook
lot
the
of people's
world.
lives. It shook the world. A lot of people's lives are forever changed because of it. And I was no exception. I had a few investors, a few small companies that were going to be interested in partnering up with us on this film. It was going to be the biggest budget I ever had, and unfortunately, those companies were affected by the industry, and had to pull out. And me being the kind of person that I am, I just was not patient, didn't want to wait. I looked into my bank account, which wasn't pretty at the time, and I took out the spare change that I had in there, and we went out and we made this film in a few days, um, which probably wasn't the best decision to do, but either way, it was a great learning experience. Made this film in a few days with some of my friends, and we just had a good time. But I learned a lot when I first, after graduation, making my way out to California. It was a great experience because it taught me so much, and gave me so much experience. The one thing that I think is invaluable when it comes to this industry, and especially for people who are starting out right now, is experience. Get on as many sets as possible, learn as many positions as possible, and be humble. I want everybody who wants to go to film school, or a lot of people who do go to film school, they want to be the next Roger Deakins. They want to be the next Steven Spielberg, the next Paul Thomas Anderson, or Christopher Nolan, or Ryan Coogler, or all these filmmakers who are doing what it is that they're doing are aspire to do at a high level. We all want to do that. Everybody, Deshaun, I love Deshaun. He wanted to be the next Quentin Tarantino, man.
Yeah, he really did.
yeah, and it's not. And listen, at the end of the day, he's going to be the next Deshaun Bailey. And I've had this conversation with him. You're going to be the next STEFON WHITAKER. I'm going to be the next Andrew Domville. Yeah, you want to pattern your career and stuff after other people that influence you, that you aspire to do great work like they're doing. But at the end of the day, you want to have your own style, remain true to yourself and your sensibilities, play that up. But I would say get as much experience as possible and be humbled, and understand that this is an industry with a lot of twists and turns, up and downs. I mean, there are going to be times where it's pouring rain, and then you're going to have droughts. Okay, that's just how this industry is. Yeah. And you got to accept the good with the bad. I think going to California instilled that in me, because being in Florida, I was in my comfort zone, man. I was working, and and when you're in your comfort zone, you stay stagnant. It's hard to progress. It's hard to get to that next level because you're so comfortable, and time doesn't stop. It doesn't wait around for anybody. You graduate at 20. Both you and I, we graduated full sail at 20. We're not 25, and that time went by like that. I'm sure you would agree. Went by like that. It's what you make of the time and how you utilize it. Going to California, getting that experience, being knocked down as many times as I was knocked down when I went to California, instilled something in me that I didn't have when I was in Florida. Instilled a sense of drive, a sense of ambition and hunger that I didn't really have prior to actually making my way out to California. I do think, in order to really do something worthwhile, not just in this career, but in life, being comfortable and being in this safe space, you have to be a little uncomfortable. You have to be willing to be a little unsafe. I think that's where the best work happens, and when you're really able to really level up. And we all look at these people that are on the Mount Rushmore of filmmaking. You have your Stanley Kubricks, you have your Kurosawas, you have all these great filmmakers that you would look at the Mount Rushmore of directing or filmmaking and say, wow, I aspire to be like that. But are you willing to pay the price that those people pay? Are you willing to go through the ups and downs those people have made, those sacrifices that those people made? You can look at it from the sidelines, and STEFON doing some extraordinary things, working on as a PA on these big time Hollywood blockbusters that are currently playing in the theater right now. If you've been vaccinated, or if you feel safe venturing out to the theater, I suggest you do so. If you feel safe enough to go ahead and do it, because these movies are something worthwhile, and I believe truly and honestly they are saving our industry. So please go out and support those filmmakers if you feel safe enough to go ahead and do that. Or if not, you can always rent the movie online, or on iTunes or something like that. But let's put the money, we're paying money for these products that we're getting, and our filmmakers deserve to be compensated, because we're everything like that. But I do think it was important for me to actually go to California because I've learned so much from it. It instilled so much experience in me, to actually apply in other aspects of my life, and that's something that I will always take with me moving forward. It was a great
Yeah.
experience.
Yeah. No, the risks are very, very important. I mean, I
Yeah.
look at my whole career as a risk. I look at everything. I look at the way that I look at my career as a risk for me personally. Even though I really truly believe that I'm going to be exactly where I plan to be, it's a risk to say that and to think that, because there's prices that come with that, and there's a lot of people, that end up getting cut off or end up, getting less attention. I
But
guess.
all, but also too, like I said, you're doing some big things in the industry. For all those viewers out there, I lost my train of thought when I went on that tangent. But you know, you know, you're doing Stefan is doing big stuff in the industry. I'm doing some good stuff in the industry. A lot of people, that I've noticed that I went to school with are doing some great stuff in the industry. But at the end of the day, too, you can look at these people from the sidelines and say, hey, I want to do what it is that Stefan is doing. I want to do this. How do I do this? How do I? But at the end of the day, you know what price he's paying? You know what price I'm paying? You know how many sacrifices I have to make daily in order to stay afloat in this industry? It's, for one thing, it's highly competitive. It's overly saturated. Everybody with the iPhone right now is making a movie. Okay,
Yeah.
so it's
Yep.
overly saturated, and it's a great market, but at the end of the day, there's a lot of wear and tear and stuff like that. So it's easy to look at a person or look at the Mount Rushmore filmmakers and say, hey, I'm going to be this, or I want to do this, but are you willing to do that? And I think putting your priorities in order, coming to an understanding and being truly honest with yourself. I think in many ways, a lot of people are in this industry, and for me, I'm too stubborn to change, what it is that I'm doing. I'm not going to change it. This is what I set out to do, and I'm going to do it. That's just my mindset.
Mm-hmm.
But at the end of the day, you have to acknowledge the elephant in the room when it comes to mental health that we are talking about. And this is an industry almost unlike any other. I think the entertainment industry as a whole, when it comes to music, when it comes to the arts, I mean, even anything like that. I recently watched this movie on Netflix. It's called Really Love, and it's a black,
Oh yeah, Black Love. I've
yeah,
seen that. Very good. I
it's
like it.
Black Love. Yeah, it's
Yeah,
Black Love, man. And the director, I believe her name is Angel. I don't know how to pronounce her last name, but um, she did an extraordinary job with that. But the
absolutely. Yeah,
film, very very similar to Candyman, which was out in theaters,
at the
which I just
time.
saw. But yeah, which I just saw like the other week by Nia DaCosta, who's extraordinary director, great filmmaker in
Mm-hmm.
her own right. But both films sort of deal with the art world, and
Yeah, yeah.
specifically speaking about Really Love, you have these two people who are so infatuated with one another. Um, I forget the character's name, but she is like,
Mm-hmm.
she's trying to aspire to become a lawyer. He's like in the art world, he's a painter and stuff like that, and they're both taking this full-on approach to their career, which
Yeah.
has a profound impact on their relationship. And that is to me, it was one of the most honest films that I've seen in quite some time, because it didn't have that Hollywood traditional ending, or that the way we
The
see it. It
happy
was
ending. Yeah.
yeah, it was life, and I could relate to that. And in this industry, there's a lot of sacrifices. There's a lot of things that go into what it is that we're doing, and to be able to do it at the level that we're doing it as, that may not be the best place for every single person. Going to California was transcendent for me. because I'm in the position that I'm in right now, specifically from that experience, from going to Full Sail, from doing that DCI, directing that project from DCI, from making this expanding that short film until this feature that's currently in post production right now that we're going to be putting out a trailer for very soon. I mean, all these kinds of things have had an effect uh, on my career, in the way, in my outlook, the way I see the world and everything like that. So going to California played an important role, important piece to who I am, who I am today, and I'm very thankful for it.
No, absolutely. I guess with the point back with the back to like the Really Love and Candyman, one thing I noticed about those films a lot, yeah, you're right. They definitely had a very symmetrical, somewhat situation in there in the story, as far as just like Candyman, you know, I forget the Yaya, I forget his last name. Very great artist.
Yeah,
Was
Drew
actually,
Mateen.
yeah, Yaya Do Mateen, which is funny. I actually worked with him and met him because he's, you know, he's in Matrix. And I didn't really know at the stardom that he was going to be at, because I just remember him from Aquaman at that time. But I like seen him on set, and I'm like, oh shit, that's Yaya. And I wish I would have got a chance to like speak to him. But yeah, like those two films, what I kind of realized in ways is that how the man who was the artist was just like so obsessed with his art, that's all he really cared about, and it cost that relationship. You know, it cost that, because he just wanted to see the stardom. And what those films are like to me, as someone who loves love and loves black love, and sees myself in that space eventually someday, I don't know, someday, is damn, I don't want to be in that position where it's like, damn, I'm over here only caring about the art and that's it, you know, and that's it. And my relationship is cost because of that, you know. So that was a good, those movies were very good. I liked Really Love more than Candyman. Candyman wasn't my like favorite movie that I've seen this year. It was really good, but it was underwhelming, I feel like, in just some of the
But it's
some of
balanced
the
too.
impact. Yeah, it was some nice balance. It was very beautiful. I think that Nia's direction was very great. I think just as it being like almost like a direct sequel, you know, it was really cool too in that realm. But there's like a few things that just didn't hit for me all the way. Really Love was like, you know, I didn't know much about. I just had seen it was promoted so much on Twitter, and then I checked it out. And Really Love was really cool. Just one thing I hated about those movies, about the characters wise, I would say, is I did not like the main characters, like the dudes. The dudes were just like, it made you not like them. And then when you think about how that could be related in real life and how you could almost place yourself in that situation, it's like, damn, that I don't want to be that guy.
I mean,
Then I don't
here,
like myself.
yeah, here are these two guys, you know, in relationships with these two fantastic, intelligent, beautiful, talented women. Um, and they're pouring all their passion stuff into their work, and sort of that in many ways is sort of hindering their relationship directly to their spouse, their significant other. And I think in many ways I see myself in that, because for me, when I watched Really Love, which I know this isn't a film review for this podcast, but when I watched that film, I felt the authenticity in it. It resonated immensely with me because I saw myself. I saw, you know, a lot of myself into it, because there's a lot of time that I've devoted into this specific endeavor, into filmmaking, where a lot of my relationships, family, you know, romantic relationships, have sort of suffered because of this one pursuit. I think at the end of the day, what this film made me see, it wasn't the message in the film, but it was like, well, if I can see myself in it, well, what's different? Balance.
Mm-hmm.
Finding that balance, being able to turn on when it's time to turn on. You know, you come to the plate with a bat, you know, you're ready, but you have to be able to turn off too. You know what I
Yeah.
mean? And that, seeing that film, especially, you know, the last few weeks and something like that, it's something I continuously think about, because it's something that I can, of course, improve on in my own life.
1000%. No, absolutely, man. And it's just, you know, it's interesting how those films, how much you can see yourself in certain characters. So the fact that I think to myself, like, yeah, I didn't like those two characters, but then I realized, like, damn, I don't want to be in that position, because I feel like if I was in a relationship right now, at this very moment, I feel like I'd be like that. So,
Oh, no. I know. I know 100% you'd be like that, man. You'd be like that 100%.
oh man, it's just like, no, I feel it, because when it comes to relationships in general, it's just like, I just don't care. No, I don't want to say I don't care, because my last relationship, I cared a lot, but I also think that was part of the hindrance, because I cared a lot while maybe not being cared for as much as I would have liked. So it's different.
But bro,
It's a different way.
but bro, that's a fear, man. That's what it is.
Yeah.
That's what it's all stems from. It's for one, it stems from insecurity, but another, it stems from fear. Because when you open up your heart like that, and it's not reciprocated in return, then
Yeah.
it can leave a scar, and it can affect your
Yeah.
work. And
Yeah.
in many ways, it's like, hey man, hell, I don't want to be in that position again. Let me close off. And I can only speak from experience. I
Mm-hmm.
didn't have the best of breakups in 2016, and it really affected my work. For good, for better, or for worse, it really affected my work. I
Mm-hmm.
think the best product that I was ever able to make, Midnight Kiss, directly stemmed from what happened in my previous relationship.
Mm-hmm.
And like I said, a lot of people liked the film. A lot of people enjoyed it and said, "Hey, man, we're seeing you level up." But then it came from such a place of a pain and confusion,
Mm-hmm.
and it kind of made me close off,
Yeah.
and to where the only thing that really matters right now is my work. But that, in many ways, is a mechanism, or this elaborate scheme that I've sort of come up with to not be placed in that position again, where I can be affected like that mentally and emotionally. So I think it comes from a place of fear. And it's like you go up to the stove, you burn your hand because the stove is on. It's like, hell, man, I got to make sure I don't want to burn my hand again. You know what I mean? It's like taking
Yeah.
necessary precautions to make sure you're not in that position. But in many ways, you're closing yourself off, and time is just going to continuously keep going, and you're going to miss out on a lot of opportunities. At least for me, I'm gonna miss out on a lot
Yeah.
of opportunities because of it.
Yeah. No, it's funny you mentioned the burning. I was making some food last night and stubbed my quick little hand on it. It hurt for like a few seconds, and it's not no scar, but you can tell like it's a little smooth area where it's like burnt at. I'm like, that's trash. But
Yeah.
to kind of get close to ending this off, I want to talk about two things that it seems like for you is a pretty big part of your life. If we just talk about what kind of is a good like healing component for us mentally and physically. You've always been big on your fitness and your faith. You've been big on those, and I've noticed that, and I think a lot of people who have met you have noticed that. I don't know how outward you are well, at least back in the day, you were very outward with your fitness, and I think your faith too. You would be taking off your damn shirt, you know what I mean, to show off the muscles, and I'm like, man, who is this big muscled up dude? Like it's hilarious. Hold on, where'd you go? Uh-oh. Look, I dissed him and he went away. Andrew, you still there? I see that hold on. Oh, there you are. What?
I don't
Technical.
know what happened there. There was difficulties. What were you saying, man? It cut out the part where you were saying take off your shirt and everything like that. So that's where the part it cut out, man.
That's hilarious. Oh my gosh.
Yeah.
Whoever's watching this on you, that's funny. Anyway, um, no, just fitness and faith. Where does that
Yeah.
where does that land for you? How important is that to you?
Okay. So fitness is very important to me. Um, for me, it provides a level of for me, when it comes to fitness, it's a lifestyle decision, and it provides a lot of benefits, of course, health and everything like that, but it also gives me structure. And for me, where I am right now in my life, that's sort of something I need. When I pour so much of myself into my work, working on these projects, I mean, both Stefan and I are, entrepreneurs in our own rights. We're building out things for ourselves, but we're also working on various projects at the same time. It can be stressful and overwhelming. For me, going to the gym or just working out in general is my stress relief. It allows me to take all of that frustration that I might be dealing with, or all of that anxiety, or anything like that,
Yeah.
and put it into the gym. And it allows me to really
Yeah.
get it out and stuff like that. So I'm very thankful for it. It's a productive way to
I'm
to
not
to get
laughing at
on.
you. I'm not laughing at
Okay.
you. I'm
Okay.
laughing at the frustration part.
Yeah,
That's
because
the way you said it. It's
your
the way you said it
frustration.
was funny.
Yeah, I mean, I'm be
It was
honest, man.
funny.
Doing this filmmaking thing, you get frustrated every day.
Good all the
So
time.
all the
All the
time. So
time.
I need the
Uh,
gym. The gym helps me with that. And for me, I like the routine of it. It allows me to stay focused. Like
yeah.
just say you're at the gym, you're trying to hit a new PR, or you're trying to hit a goal, right? You
Yeah.
have to work to try to hit that goal. And and to be able to hit that goal, it's not just the time you put in the gym, it's the time you put in outside of the gym that
Yeah.
really helps you hit that goal. So
Yep.
diet, sleep, um, how many meals you're taking in a day, your calories, and all that kind of stuff. That plays a role in you actually achieving that next PR or something that you want to do, right? And I equate it to filmmaking too. It's not Filmmaking isn't just this thing that you do. Like to me, it's not a hobby. I'm not a hobbyist. This isn't my hobby. This is my career. This is what I do for a living. I mean, this isn't something I do with friends on the weekends. This is something I do and I make a living doing. I make a living doing it. I'm very thankful for. But you know, it's a lifestyle,
Hmm.
and it's not just the time I put in during the weekdays. It's like when I leave the office, when I leave my sanctuary. Because right now I'm in my office. I have my C stands right there. I have my lights right there. I have my camera equipment all over the place and stuff like that. I'm in this office almost 7 days a week. And when I do leave this office, when I do get home, or when I go back to, when I get on a flight and get back to California or something like that, the work doesn't stop. You know what I mean?
Hmm.
So it's a lifestyle decision, just like going to the gym. It's a lifestyle decision. So I equate it in many ways. There's a lot of similarities to it, but the good thing about the gym is that it allows me to get in shape. It
Hmm.
allows me to stay healthy, and those are benefits that I need to continuously do this filmmaking thing long term. Because doing filmmaking can be very unhealthy. I mean, sometimes you don't have time to cook all the time.
Yeah.
You find yourself at KFC or at McDonald's almost too
Yeah.
many times a week. So you got to really prioritize and try to be as healthy as you can doing this thing. So it helps me do that.
Yeah. Fitness is huge.
Yeah.
I mean, it's been a big part of my life too. I mean, I just feel like it's obviously better to be like have yourself physically fit so you can be good about your health. It's always been something big for me because my health is always been important to me because my family has, and a lot of Black families have, like hereditary issues, health wise. My family is hereditary for like diabetes and stuff. And it's like thank God, thank God that I have not had that issue. But I still have had like high blood pressure issues, which can lead the next step once you kind of fuck up is diabetes. And it's like I don't want to be in that level. You know what I mean? I don't want to be at that level because I've seen my mom and my brother have to deal with that all their lives, and it's just like not all their lives, but it's since I've been born. And it's just like, yeah, I don't want to be in that position. So I've always wanted to make sure to keep up with my health. And I just got this gym membership recently. I went to the gym the other day, and like I've definitely lost I've lost a lot of power that I've had as far as like lifting, because I used to lift like a pretty heavy amount. I'm gonna have to upload a video here in on the podcast video. I was benching like 315, 320 or whatever for a little while and all this kind of stuff. And it's like, it's been a while. It's been a while since I've been able to hit that. I've always been using my strength more in like, being at work sometimes when there's a lot of heavy lifting to do there. I'll, pick up a lot of weight. I'm usually the guy that a lot of people will be like, hey, that's a big fellow over there. Let's go put his ass to work and do this and do that. And I'm like, all right, whatever. But just being healthy is important. Like playing football and rugby and all that, being involved in all those sports in high school was such a huge thing for me. That's what really helped me get into that type of life. And it's amazing that I, was able to do that for so long. And I kind of miss it sometimes because there was just a certain kind of motivation, a certain kind of level and emphasis on putting your ass to work physically to get stronger and faster and whatever that sports had on me, that sometimes when you're outside of that, it's kind of tough unless you're really, really disciplined on that. So it's always been a thing for me. The pandemic stopped me from doing it the best way that I, doing it at the consistency that I was doing it at. But now I'm kind of back onto trying to do that, getting myself, buying different proteins, getting protein shakes, it's kind of hard to have the right meals all the time, or have it's tough on that. The diet part is the hardest freaking part for me.
Yeah,
that's the hardest part. It's way harder than the lifting aspect. So, that's the part that I want to try to help as much. I mean, I still got some broccolis and carrots and stuff that, that I need to like really start eating. I might do that like as a meal later on today or something. But yeah, fitness is huge and important. I would say to everybody who's listening to get yourself in the gym, do something to get yourself physically fit, even if you can't afford the gym right now on a monthly basis. Just go out there and go take some hikes, go on some runs, do some mountain biking, like be physically active. That was the one thing that kind of helped me during the pandemic, because I just hiked a lot. And eventually I'll probably tell that story on the podcast, but like hiking was such a huge lifestyle change for me. And I haven't hiked in a while just because of, work has been taking up all of my damn time, but hiking is huge. Hiking is important. I might find a hike tomorrow just for the hell of it, but faith, where did that come from? How did you've been big on your faith? I want you to explain on that too. How has that kind of changed your life briefly, if you could say?
Well, I am, to all the viewers and people who are listening, I am a Christian, and I don't want to say I was born into the faith. I mean, I learned a lot about Christianity from my grandparents growing up, and that sort of was instilled in me. But then I came to learn Christ as my personal Lord and Savior, and from there, it's just been a relationship. So going to college and everything like that, I always stayed true to that because it was always a part of me, I felt. And outside of college and stuff like that, I begin to really focus and on my career and my work and everything like that. And just real talk, I'm not as strong in my faith as I was, a few years ago. And I think that's because of all the time and all the work that I've dedicated to this specific thing. And that's sort of something I put on the back burner. But at the end of the day, I will acknowledge that, Christ is my Lord and Savior. And, he is very important and plays an important role in any and everything that I do. And I don't, for me personally, there's nothing that I do and there's nothing that I've achieved and will not achieve in the future that isn't directly correlated or to him. He's the reason for everything. He's the reason I'm breathing. He's the reason I've got all these opportunities right now. He's the reason I'm on this podcast right now. He's the reason for all of that kind of stuff. So I give him the glory, the honor, and the praise for that. And I'm thankful and grateful every day, each and every day, to continuously do what it is that we went to school to do, that we love doing, and just growing as human beings. I think that's important.
Yeah. Absolutely, man. I don't know if you ever got a chance to listen to No Sweat Pimp, have you? Or did you?
I did.
Yeah, well,
to all the viewers, to everybody who's listening, I reached out to STEFON about No Sweat Pimp. I sent him a message over, I think over Messenger on Facebook. He can't look at it now because I deleted my Facebook. But I sent him a message over Messenger and I told him what I thought about the album. I thought it was extraordinary. I thought it was great. I forget the time. I forget my favorite song on it. I forget the title of it, but I even told you about that. So I thought that was a great album. It talked about a lot of things. It talked about faith. It talked about struggle. It talked about all those kind of things that I was dealing with and could relate to.
Yeah, exactly. And that's why I bring it up, because No Sweat Pimp dealt with a lot of that, because I feel like that's something I've been going through a lot. It's always been a struggle of faith. I'm not in any sort of religion, but I'm very spiritual. I definitely believe in God. I definitely believe, like, there's been so many different examples of what God has done. And it's only a divine thing because of that. Like, I think when I worked with Baby Keem and Kendrick Lamar, that was a whole God-given thing. Me being out here in California was a God-given thing. Me going back to Indiana after college was a God-given thing. There's lots of moments like that for me. And there's always those struggles. I think for me, the most recent of that was definitely probably after my breakup. There was definitely a lot of moments where I was questioning faith, questioning my faith, we'll call it, as far as that goes. Like, there was just a lot of that. Because it didn't seem like anything was going right when I wanted to go right. When I was praying, like the moments that I did pray, I don't pray as often as I, probably should or whatever, or however people might look at it. But yeah, I felt like the times when I was praying didn't go right. The times that I didn't pray, I think those things kind of more went in my favor, which was very interesting to look at that in just a different perspective. But yeah, no, faith is interesting, man. I think a lot of people, there's a person. Shout out to Francisco. He's an amazing filmmaker out here in the Bay who I've met and got a chance to work with in a lot of stuff. Very awesome guy who also has a very great podcast as well. He has a podcast called the Miscellaneous Podcast. Don't worry about paying me for this advertisement, Francisco. But very great guy. I hope to have him on the podcast one day. But me and him had a conversation because I think he's an atheist actually, and we had a conversation about that. And it's interesting, like atheism. I don't know. I guess it's kind of technically, I don't know if it's religion, but it's something of like that. Like there's a belief of not believing. I don't know. But it was interesting having a conversation with him because, just hearing his different perspective of why he wouldn't believe. And whenever it's funny, whenever I am on like dating sites and stuff, and whenever they say that they're an atheist, I usually skip past them, which is funny because I don't know, faith is something that is eventually always going to be a conversation I want to have with a person who I'm in a relationship with or friends with even, and I don't blame anyone for their beliefs. You know what I mean? I'm not against whatever kind of religion that they may partake in. That's up to them. As long as they don't, as long as they don't use that belief of religion to try to attack someone, as long as that's not the case, then I'm cool with whatever. But it was interesting to have a conversation with him because we specifically spoke a lot about just, why and why not. And I think one of the beliefs, not really beliefs, but one of the things I always remember seeing and saying, there's the show Euphoria, which I don't know if you've watched that show, but
I'm gonna be checking it out.
Let me tell you this: you never watched it. You never watched it?
No, it's on HBO Max. I'm gonna be checking it out.
Let me tell you, be prepared. It's a lot. It's a lot. If you've never watched it, it's a lot. I watched it, and it's a lot, but I loved it. But it is a lot. Let me just tell you that it's a lot to deal with. That show, there's an episode with Domingo Coleman, I think his name is his name. I could be so wrong. I think that's his name. Domingo Coleman, and of course Zendaya. Shout out to Zendaya. I would love to interview Zendaya. She's a Bay Area native. I would love to interview her, but that's another story. Anyway, there's a conversation they had in this story about belief and how, when you watch the show, she's like been a drug addict and all this kind of stuff. And the dialogue from this episode, I'll say, Andrew, it's some of the best dialogue I've ever out of any sort of like film, TV show, video game, whatever. Some of the best dialogue
Yeah, you know I'm big on
ever.
dialogue. You know I'm big on dialogue.
It's so
Yeah.
great, man. And I remember having to explain this same exact situation of that story from the episode, or dialogue from the episode, with this girl who I was kind of like just talking to at one point, which didn't last long at all. But I remember bringing it up to her because she was one of them girls. She was kind of a sad girl, low key, and yeah, she had just didn't have a belief of God, and it had to do with basically her saying that her, after her like best friend passed away and her grandmother passed away or something like that, that she didn't start to believe in God. Like, oh, why would God take away my family? And then of course, I had this, my mom has always said this. My mom has said, look, when God doesn't take away those people. You got to realize that there's a God, there's also a devil, and that the devil takes, some of these bad things that happen. It's not God's doing. It's the devil's doing. And I believe that as somebody who has a belief in, like I said, spiritual and stuff. I believe that. But what I also told her too is I asked her, well, what do you believe in? What is something that you believe in so heavily, or something that you really put your faith into a lot, right? And when I mean by faith, I mean something that you believe in this thing. This is what you move. This is what moves you sometimes. And she talked about the zodiacs, like horoscopes and all that kind of stuff. And I was like, well, guess what? That might be your God. That might be a version of God that speaks to you. And I just come from the belief, and I spoke about it on No Sweat Pimp as well, about and I forget the exact damn name. And eventually I'll probably talk about it on a solo podcast or with someone. But my belief is that God is like, lives in the subconscious as well. The voices that you might hear in your head, that the decisions of certain things, sometimes that can be God in that realm, and that's why I believe that God is within all of us, that type of situation. So I say all that to say, I say all this to say that faith is important. Believe in whatever you want to believe, but faith is important. It's good to believe in something. It's good to believe in something, because if I could not imagine living in the world and not having a belief in anything at all, whether it's negative or positive, like believe in something. Like there's definitely something, in my opinion, divine out here that moves a lot of things. I believe if I could imagine who God really is and what he or she is doing for our world and our lives, I believe that God is like the master teacher. Everything that is happening is just one of those things where it's like, it's meant to happen. It's one of those things where he's just waiting maybe for us, his children, quote unquote, to really figure it out. And how long that takes is how long it takes.
But also, one thing that I've noticed in my walk, my walk with God and my walk with Christ, is that it's a relationship. So my thing is that we were talking about Really Love earlier, which is a great movie and stuff like that. But if you don't devote enough time to a specific relationship, that relationship is going to suffer.
Mm-hmm.
Your relationship with God, your relationship with Christ, or your relationship
Mm.
with anything that you believe in, if you don't have that relationship, just like a relationship with a significant other, your boyfriend, your girlfriend, or your husband, or your wife, or your kids, or your aunts, or your mother, or your father, that relationship is going to suffer.
That's
It,
true.
it's
Yep.
gonna it's gonna profoundly suffer. You know, I had to wake up one day and realize that God isn't a lamp that I could just rub and then he comes out of, and whatever it is that I want, I can tell him, hey, this is what I want, and he's going to give it to me. It doesn't work that way. At least I
Mm-hmm.
found that it doesn't work that way. There are things that come and go in life. Life does not stop. You see what I mean? I think, not to get too profound here, but to me, life is suffering. And that's what it is. It's Christ was here for me, in my belief. Christ was here when he came here and he took the sins of humanity on himself and he died on the cross. He came here to suffer for humanity. We when Adam and Eve ate off the tree of good and evil, God cursed, her seed was cursed. So this world that we're walking in right now, it's suffering, it's pain, it's loss, it's all these kinds of things, but that's just the way the world is. And I think in blaming everything, or not having, like for me, it was so a lot of things happened in 2016 that I can't, we don't have the time to talk about here on this podcast. But a lot of things happened in 2016 after graduation, when it came to my mental health, when it came to relationships, when it came to all these kinds of factors. And I blamed God for it. I
Mhm.
blamed God for it because I said, why would you put me through this hell? Why would you make me suffer like this? Take into consideration there are people out there in other countries and even on this in the states right now that are going through far worse than I've ever gone through. What I've
Mhm.
gone through is a walk in the park to a lot of than what other people have gone through. But I
Exactly.
I, I
Yeah.
I was going through this crisis, and I think that's the right word to say. It was a crisis, and I'm not entirely sure if I'm even out of it yet. But I blamed God, and I was so angry and so frustrated because I was praying. I was doing all that. I felt that my faith was the strongest that it was the strongest it's ever been.
Mhm.
And then when things didn't go my way, I blamed God for it. But I think in many ways that was a lesson unto itself. My faith wasn't as strong as I thought it was. It was an illusion. I told myself my faith was strong like that, but when things didn't go my way, what did I do? I blamed God for it.
Mhm.
That's me. That's what I have to carry. That's what I have to be truthful and honest with. You know what I mean?
Mhm.
Um, I expected God to do this thing for me because I wanted it, but maybe that thing wouldn't have been best for me. I can't see all I can't see the end from the beginning. He's
Yeah.
divine, he's all knowing. I can't I'm human. I'm in the flesh. I can only see what's right in front of me. This computer screen right here, that's what's right in front of me. That's all I can see. I can't see what's going on outside in the street, you know?
Mhm.
So um that experience taught me one thing is that you may think your faith is this, you may think all these kinds of things, but it just takes a bad day at the office to change everything. And maybe your faith isn't as strong as you thought was. And I'm speaking directly
Yeah.
to me. My faith wasn't as strong as I thought it was. And I think right now I'm still on this journey and this lesson in life to try to get back or even build my strength, my faith, and my relationship with Christ bigger, better than it was before. Because what it was before was resting on one thing, and that one thing didn't come to fruition. I blame God for it. And there can't be a mediator or a medium between it. If I'm going to have a relationship with Christ, it needs to be me and Him one on one. It can't be because this happened. I'm gonna or my mom's sick. I need to get a relationship with Christ. No, it's genuine, it's authentic. When you fall in love with someone, it's genuine, it's authentic. When you call them on the phone to see how they're doing and everything like that, it's stemming from a place of being genuine and authentic, growing a relationship with them and loving that person for who they are, despite the flaws, despite all those characteristics. That's accepting them. Christ accepts me. He accepts me.
Mhm.
I didn't accept him because I didn't get what I wanted. I didn't accept this situation. So that's my walk right now with him. I'm still learning. I'm still growing spiritually. And hopefully, we'll see 10 years down the line or even next year how things play out.
Mhm.
But I just wanted to add that.
No, that's great, man. That's really good. That's a good way just to. I mean, I like hearing that that aspect of just your faith and how you've moved along with it. And it's funny, man. It's like faith for me is just it really became much more of a prominent thing for me to talk about once No Sweat Pimp came out, and No Sweat Pimp, I speak a lot about it. Just so much different ways that I've spoken about it. And I think it's good to talk to more people about their faith and whether they have a faith or a belief in anything. It's interesting to have those conversations. I will say one movie that you should watch. And this is for everyone to watch. I mentioned this. I mentioned this film on some other. I think I mentioned this film on another podcast that I was on, not the Excellent Podcast, but some other podcast, and it's called Reentry. Look it up in Vimeo. It's called Reentry. It's a film about a man who wakes up and talks to God. And that's all I'm gonna say. When I watched this movie, it was one of the most incredible perspectives that I've ever came across. I've ever heard of a belief in what and who God is. It was one of the most beautiful short films I've ever seen. And it's one of those movies that I kind of wish I made. I'm like, damn, this is incredible. The way this perspective, it was incredible. So look it up. It's called Re-Entry. It might be on YouTube, but it's on Vimeo specifically. I've seen it on Vimeo. Re-Entry, very, very great movie. Very interesting perspective that I think will cause a lot of conversations in people's households and amongst their friends. But to get to the end of this podcast, man, Andrew, I want to say thank you, man, for being here. Thank you for being able to run round 2 of this podcast. I think this conversation was even more just like in depth about different things about Full Sail and our individual experiences, our shared experiences, but also just more about mental health and all these different things in the industry. Is there any like last motivational advice or inspirational advice you could give to anyone who is trying to be in these positions that we are in, to trying to be, become the next filmmaker in the world that's making waves? Is there any advice that you want to give?
My advice, my advice is this: if you're making films, and I think you have to accept the industry and the art form for what it is. And I honestly believe, I had this notion of being accepted.
Yeah.
I've always felt the need and the urge to want to be accepted, and that kind of stemmed into filmmaking. And when I found that, there are people actually have different opinions than me, when I actually figured that out, and not everyone's gonna like or see the work the way you see it. It was a little difficult at first. Is For me, when you're working in this industry, as tedious as it may be, as draining as it may be, and overwhelming at times, uh, you have to stay true to that one thing that you really love.
Yeah.
And for me, it's always been storytelling. It's always been being able to communicate and engage with an audience, or with a person. Um, like I said, I'm an introvert earlier on in this podcast, but I'm an introvert that desperately seeks to have communication or to converse with other people. And I use my ability as a storyteller, as a filmmaker, to be able to converse and have those conversations with other people. And that to me is the biggest thing. Don't go to film school thinking this thing is going to make you be the next Steven Spielberg. Don't try to make this film and put, mortgage your house, and put all this money into this one thing, and it's not received the way you wanted it to be received. It doesn't get accepted to South by Southwest or Sundance or something like that. I mean, make art for art's sake. I think Scorsese has this one thing that he was talking about where he says he makes movies for himself. Like, you can make movies for an audience, or you can make movies for yourself. And I think you have to ask yourself that question. Well, what do I want to do? Like, do I want to make movies specifically for me? Because you can do that. You can go on the weekends and make movies and stuff like that, and put it in festivals and stuff like that. It's your creation, and you made something that with your sensibilities. Or you can go ahead and make something that's more appealing, more commercial, more business centric, and make it with the wherewithal to actually make a profit off of. All these different questions are things that you want to ask yourself when starting out in the industry. What avenue to take in the industry? Because there's not one um, there's not one set rule or one roadmap that you can do that's going to get you from A to B. Everyone that I've talked to, and have been able to interact with on this journey, they've all had different stories. They've all had, different ways on how they broke into the industry. Not one exact way. Not all of us is gonna sneak on the Universal lot, say that we work there, and begin to actually start working there, and then direct movies and TV shows and stuff like that. That's not gonna happen. In fact, if me and Stefon did that, we'd probably get arrested, and we'd be another statistic.
And we know why.
We don't want to be another statistic right now. So right now we're trying to do something. But to on a serious note, for everybody out there who's interested in doing this filmmaking thing, just be authentic, man. Be genuine. And if you find yourself falling out of love with it, ask yourself and be honest with yourself. Why'd you really get into it? Because this career has so many ups and downs. It can be draining, it can be tedious, and all those kinds of things. But I would say hold on to that one thing that you really enjoy about the industry, that you really love, and just play that up. That's honestly the best advice I can do. Is if you want to make movies, go make movies. You don't need a bachelor's to do it. You don't need someone's approval to do it. You don't need anything, because all those kinds of things, are great. But it all starts with the belief that you want to do it. I think that's what we talked about before.
Mm-hmm.
I'm going to say this brief analogy. You have a rock in your hand, right? And you're looking out over a pond, and you want to throw the rock across the pond, and you want the rock to go to the other side, right? That idea in your head is right there, is prevalent. But then that idea sparks a belief. Your belief that in your abilities to actually take the rock that's in your hand and throw it all the way across the pond and have it hit on the other side, that's going to spark the action. If you truly believe in yourself, if you believe in what it is that you're doing, and that this is what you're meant to be doing, it doesn't matter what comes your way. It doesn't matter what, roadblock comes your way. That belief is always going to spark the action to continuously keep doing it. You don't need to be doing it on the scale that Ryan Coogler's doing it. You don't need to be doing it on the scale that Roger Deakins is doing it. As long as you're doing what it is that you love to do, that's all that matters.
Beautiful. That's the best. That's the great. That's some really good advice, man. That's beautiful. And I think hopefully everybody who's listening to the podcast who might be interested in filmmaking or videography, photography, whatever kind of field, that you take that advice to heart, and you add it to your excellence. Andrew, where can people watch your excellence? Where can people check you out? Your social media and all that kind of stuff. List all those for us.
Well, you guys can check me out on Twitter. It's at Domville Andrew. You can also check me out at Vimeo, Andrew Domville. I am starting my own production company. We are getting ready to launch the social media platforms.
The Domville company.
The Domville company. But think of it this way. Listen, I wasn't that creative enough to come up with an actual cool name. I came up with some names. I came up with
that is cool.
Yeah, but I came up with Omniville. I came up with these.
I'm glad you didn't do that.
I came up with these really, really abstract names. But when I did a basic Google search, it seems like everybody and their mother has a name or a production company name like that. So I said, what's unique? My last name is unique. Not everybody has it. The Domville company, think of it like the San Fran company or the Walt Disney company. I was like, let me just put the Domville company and have it go there. But our social medias and stuff will be launching very soon. We don't have those up yet, but if you follow me on Twitter, you'll be seeing some posts about that pretty soon.
Awesome. And I will list all the social medias by the time Domville company launches. If need be, by the time this launches, we'll put that in there. But thank you, Andrew, once again, man, for being a part of the podcast. Yeah. I appreciate it. This conversation was amazing, and I'm glad we could have it this Saturday morning. And once again, everybody, thank you guys for watching the podcast, listening to the podcast. Remember to subscribe to SW Films and subscribe to the Excellent Podcast on YouTube, Vimeo, and of course, follow us all the different Facebook, Instagrams, and all that good stuff. So thank you guys once again, and I will see you on the very next podcast.